This is The Gorge. It's a podcast where my friend Sarah, my friend Sara, and my friend Oates gorge ourselves on a topic.
The Gorge is brought to you by Patreon. That's patreon.com/thegorge. A spiel I should be used to doing at this point. And now I've thrown it all off. Now I've just completely thrown it all off.
$5 gets you takeout.
That's right, a monthly commentary. Otis got it memorized.
And $2 gets you a bunch of garbage.
Just a bunch of garbage, alright?
We rifle through the trash and we pull something out and we go, hey, do you want this?
It's only $2 and you go,
Look, it's a cheeseburger and it's blue and you get it next to your name in the Discord server.
oh, you guys are much better at selling this than I am. Thanks.
Thank you, Danny.
Hey, no problem.
Anyways, that's patreon.com/thegorge. Thanks. That's the fastest ad read I've ever done. You're welcome.
I love my gorges. They're so stupid.
Listen to this.
We're so gorgeous.
So we're finally here.
Performing for you.
It took us 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
But we are finally at the end of the Venture Brothers.
By which I mean we're at the last 3 seasons and 2 movies.
That's
yes.
right.
Which represent, despite only being about a third of our episode count and also a third of the season list, do make up 10 years of the show's 20-year runtime.
Sara, I have a question. What are you referring to as the second movie? All This in Gargantua 2 or the Morphic Trilogy?
I am counting the... When I say movies, I am specifically, and I suppose this is not actually the case, and that is a misword on my part, I'm referring to Gargantua 2 and Radiant is the Blood of the Baboon Heart as the 2 movies.
Yeah, I figured...
kind of call All This in Gargantua 2 is kind of like a small movie.
Yeah, I was, like, it and the Morphic Trilogy are kind of like TV movie specials, so I was kind of like, which one is Saturn referring to besides Radiant is the Blood of the Baboon Heart?
Right.
Yeah, I'm referring to the if I in my addled state, use the word movie to refer to something that isn't Radiant is the Blood of the Baboon Heart, I am talking about a special of some kind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like that Christmas movie they did that's 15 minutes long.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's see. So we got out of... We're not going to do episode by episode this time.
No, not at all.
We're out of a season 4, the best season.
Yes.
And now we're into season 5, which is also a pretty good season. But I actually do distinctly remember watching season 5 and thinking in my head, like, I miss season 4.
I want to ask, because it is like, does play into my theory of what I'm going to call late stage Venture Brothers, even though it's the bottom 10 years and like doesn't actually work out that way, but it's late stage Venture Brothers, right?
Sure.
So the first episode of Ben, Oates, and I all made arguments for why season 1, 2, or 3 was our favorite, and then the second episode, Sarah made an argument for why season 4 was her favorite.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I know people in this call have arguments on the ready for season 7. Does anyone want to be the champion for season 5 or season 6?
I will champion season 5 a little bit.
Okay.
Because I do think it does technically contain my favorite episode of the series,
Which is
A Very Venture Halloween, which we already talked about.
Yeah.
And yeah, it doesn't have the consistent bangers of season 4.
Mm-hmm.
But it does have what I feel are some good inter-episode spikes.
Sure.
Of just like really strong moments within, not the entire episode, but like moments within the episode that really make it stand out. And it does suffer because it's literally like half the length of season 4.
Right.
That it doesn't have the room to breathe. Because we kind of get what I would consider the last standard episode of the Venture Brothers in this season.
Yeah, this is, I think season 5 to me is like I think we made an argument last time where like you could have ended Venture Brothers on the ending of season 4 and that have been like one of the perfectly good places to leave it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think season 5 is like kind of the last season of what I would say is like Venture Brothers that is recognizably the show it started as, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think
but when we get to 6 and 7 and we have the setting change, there's going to be there is a change in format to basically a strictly linear narrative rather than an episodic one with an overarching plot. But season 5 is the last time we get this is kind of a bottle episode.
Yeah. I would say the last standard episode of the Venture Brothers is Venture Libre.
I was about to say, yeah.
It is Doc and most of the crew go to a place and they encounter a threat in that place. And shenanigans happen.
I will make the argument, even though it's not quite that. I'm making a structure a chaotic argument here as opposed to a structural purist argument here. For me, the last classic Venture Brothers episode is also one to me that is the iconic late Venture Brothers episode. The way we talked about Arrears in Science or Careers in Science being the iconic early Venture Brothers episode. I think Spanakopita is the iconic late Venture Brothers episode.
I would agree to that one. I think the season 5 definitely gets merits for having Spanakopita in it.
Yeah. Because I think that is also, and again, we're not going to go episode by episode. Venture Libre is very good. It's about Venturestein forming a revolutionary army in the South American jungle out of science freaks, which is just a great premise for an episode. Yeah. Also, you mentioned, it's just a bunch of chaotic freaks, and it's a completely isolated cast that ends on a brick joke, and it's great. Yeah. I love that episode of that.
I love Venture Libre for having all of the Island of Dr. Moreau callbacks and references, and it does one of my favorite gags that the series does, which is having these kind of freaks and monsters act normal.
Yeah.
There's dudes.
Yeah, they are just guys.
I think my favorite part about that episode is the wrinkle in which Hatred gets involved in the storyline.
Yeah, Hatred briefly considers joining Mother Base.
Yeah.
The idea is that he kind of recognizes to what degree are you considered a science experiment? Just a mad scientist's lackey or henchman or prototype or whatnot. And he comes to the conclusion that despite the fact that he is significantly more invisible, he has the same social status of being lesser than his peers by virtue of being that. And I kind of like that little wrinkle in his character. In
the grand data file of the Venture Brothers video game, Hatred's character model is classified as a creature.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it uses the creature rigging.
Hatred just has tits the whole season?
This is the season where he has tits.
Okay.
The FF14 version of Sergeant Hatred is like Stormblood Xenos, where he doesn't technically use the PC model, he uses the monster animation. And they don't actually give him a human model until later.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And on a relatively similar note, I also think part of why I say Spanakopita is the iconic late Venture Brothers episode is because this is one where it's okay, it's a relatively isolated premise and there are some jokes and the characters do things that are jokey in the way, but also the thrust of this episode is a core of an emotional story, right?
Yes.
It is about specifically this sort of obtuse way that Rusty deals with this significantly traumatic childhood event, and also his traumatic childhood in general, laundered through this fake holiday celebrated on an obscure Mediterranean island by people who tried to rob his dad's boat once, and then kidnapped him and tried to ransom him, and got really depressed when that dad, over the course of several days, just did not ever answer the phone.
Didn't show up,
didn't show up, didn't indicate anything was wrong, nothing like that. And it is it's weird, right? Because it is also this is, I think, also the era where they get really into, we've had a bit of Rusty guilt and things of that nature in the earlier seasons, but I feel Spanakopita is also the iconic one, because this is also for late Venture Brothers. This is the part where you start to get the characterization of Rusty as no, this is a guy that you should feel absolute sympathy for.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's a stupid dipshit, but also, like, look at him.
But also look at him. He's so sad and he's so wet and he's so just like.
I think State Bentley put it best when you're like, so like Jonas Adventure could do the exact same thing as Rusty, but the difference is that Rusty is so inept that he kind of comes across as like charming and plucky and kind of Wile E. Coyote, like underdog-esque.
What's the phrase he uses? It's an irresistible anti-charisma, which is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And like.
I
don't know.
He is the Kramer in this relationship.
Yeah. He's like
George. He's George. He's not Kramer. He's George.
You're right. Excuse me, George. George is a bit more accurate.
Yeah.
And I think, and like before we move on, also, like I think part of it is also like the difference in tone there, aside from the emotional focus, is like this is a plot beat and an episode like framework that you could do in season 1, like almost 1 for 1. Except season 1 would have treated this much more like a joke, for better or for worse.
That is the big difference. Is that if this was in season 1, you would not get the scene where, in this case, it would be like Billy or Pete asking about it, but you would not get the scene where Hatred is talking to Brock about it, and Brock is just saying, "Let it go."
Yeah.
Is Doc happy? Yes. Let it go.
Because because the framing of the episode is very much it is like an emotional through point where it is like garnering a sort of dramatic sympathy for this dramatic character, right? And then like a way that's still funny, obviously, because it is a comedy show and they don't stop making jokes even when they do try to be serious. But the season 1 version of this episode, it would be, oh my god, Rusty got abandoned, and it would be a kick the puppy joke, right?
Yeah.
Like there'd be so much more emphasis on how much the trip is costing.
And also how funny it is how horrible that Rusty's dad is, instead of being like, wow, you know.
Instead of us showcasing the fact that Jonas Venture was fighting the Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard, we would be getting the Rusty Venture Boy Adventurer cartoon version of those events that just show like how pathetic the situation is, you know.
And then we get like a brick joke and oh, sorry, continue.
All that shit happened the same weekend in real life as well.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing.
To me, that's like the craziest thing is that like it's like, oh, it's like a funny joke that like Jacqueline Onassis, you know, got married. And L. Ron Hubbard was there to fuck with it. And also, there was somebody coming back from space. And it's like, oh, okay, that's like a Venture Brothers gag. No, it's not. That's just what happened in real life. All that shit happened in the Mediterranean around each other on the same weekend.
Feels like a Hideo Kojima joke.
Yeah.
Right. It's real.
This is my argument for, based on Summer 6, FGO knows what Venture Brothers is.
Boo! Alright.
I don't get that joke.
It's spoilers for FGO summer event that is no longer playable for literally anyone who cares. Part of the significant plot of that thing is based around the fact that, like, did you know that Christopher Columbus and Leonardo da Vinci both grew up in Italy relatively close to each other contemporaneously?
Oh, yeah.
That's correct.
Okay.
And the event posits that they may or may not have secretly been friends when they were children or something, which is very something. But yeah, it's just like, yeah, these all these weird things happen at the same time. The difference is, I think the season 1 episode ends with the Greek guy in his little hotel counting his money, and like the dead robot body of L. Ron Hubbard just comes crashing through the wall and kills everybody.
Yeah.
But no, I think Spanakopita is a great blending of season 1 and later season event because of that exact reason, where it's like, this could have been a season 1 episode, but they added scenes that round it out and flesh it out and add character growth to Rusty instead of seeing him as a pathetic, shivering, wet dog.
Yeah, content-wise, it's a season 1 episode, but you can see that the approach to writing the episodes has changed significantly.
Season 1 wouldn't have the scene where it's revealed that Rusty started showing up after his dad died.
Yeah, they wouldn't make a comment about that. They would like imply it had been the entire time he's been an adult. But they say specifically like, yeah, it was weird. He just started showing up again like 20 years ago.
Yeah, but explicitly being it like the year his father died is the year he just randomly showed back up.
Right.
But no, I think Spanakopita is a fantastic episode because we get to see Rusty happy for like genuinely having a good time
for one episode.
and it's not like him being shifty or trying to manipulate something. It's just he's having a good time.
Yeah, like nobody gets screwed over except for Rusty's trust fund, but
right. Well, and also except for St. Cloud, but fuck St. Cloud. This is the season where we get St. Cloud though.
Oh, this is the St. Cloud season.
Quiz boy.
I've come to ruin your employer's Mediterranean vacation. I believe I will purchase a victory royale. Thank you very much. I play
Harryhausen is a friend.
Where are we dropping, boys?
I can't do any other impression from any character in this show because I just can't. I'm not good at it. But I can do a quiz boy.
Quiz boy.
Yeah.
I feel like Billy Quiz-Boy is one of those voices that I think literally every human gun to their head could do it on the first attempt.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Everybody has the St. Cloud impression and a Schwarzenegger impression.
St. Cloud was a voice first and they put a character to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to call my favorite joke at Spanakopita, which is when Hatred is calling Brock, and a bunch of women are behind Hatred, and they're all holding blonde children.
Yeah,
and they just keep appearing throughout the scene like cats coming to investigate what a noise is, and they go like, Brock? Is Brock Sampson?
Brock Sampson? Yeah.
And him just very going, I gotta go.
What's that, Sergeant? All right, yeah. No Brock? No Brock. I mean, so yeah, of course, because like Brock could be dragged along and he'd have his own fun time at Spanakopita.
That's right. Brock also loves Spanakopita.
Brock loved Spanakopita.
Let's see.
Season 5 has 2 other episodes that I really like that we don't have to like get into in nearly as much detail because I don't think they're as important. But I want to shout them out, which are episode 6, Mama's Boys, which involves an extended sequence where Hank and Dermot use in 21. Basically, they do a bunch of shit that involves them putting a little talking Care Bear on the phone with their dad to prank him, but then also end up going to an asylum to look for their mother, and they find the voice actor for the Care Bear, and then him and Rusty end up being friends at the end, even though they've never talked once.
I love you.
It's such a dumb happenstance coincidence that could only happen in the Venture Brothers.
It's so funny.
It's really funny because like one of like the funniest part of like early season Venture Brothers is that very often the B and C plots have nothing to do with the A plot whatsoever. And this is like the one time where it's like, okay, but what? Like, how is all of this gonna come? And at the very end, it all loops back together. You're like, nice. They learned how to write a proper B plot in 20 years.
Yeah.
Good for them.
So, and it's such a funny callback to Every Which Way But Zeus. The idea that Hank and Dermot are still doing the Teddy Talk to Me thing.
Yeah, just for Rusty to have a friend.
And or to find a way to get another couple million off of him.
Yeah. I do like this episode, and I like Dean's development in this season too.
This is Emo Dean season, right?
This is Goth Dean. He has that great moment in Venture Libre where the U.S. Army bursts into the kitchen, and there's a sniper dot on his forehead, and he goes, "May I be excused?" and just gets up and walks out of the door.
Yeah.
I love his emo hair. I think it actually does look really good on him. I'm glad he kept it after he stopped dyeing it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I do think the coup de grace of that whole character design is the fact that he has dyed it black, but not very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because his like red roots are still showing,
Mhm.
he just kind of like washed his hair in black dye.
Yeah. Him meeting or the revelation that he's been talking to Myra this whole time
Mm-hmm.
is really good. And the revelation that no, actually, she is not the boy's mother. She's not
Yes.
just
She
crazy.
she is in fact just crazy, which is wheeled around as a joke a lot in her first appearance, where it's like, oh, she could be though, and maybe Rusty's invasive. No, she's literally just crazy. That's
She's just crazy and and it's like, oh well, you can never feel too bad for Rusty Venture. But he's like, I just let her think they were her kids. It's like, Rusty, why aren't you?
It's one of those things where like they've made attempts to try and resolve that problem, but like every year she does this, and he's just like, I've given up trying.
Yeah.
Which adds so much to it.
I love, and this is really ties into Hank and Dean's development as a whole, but Hank being there to ground Dean, because he's like, the episode ends with Dean being like, no, of course Myra isn't our mother, that would be a good thing, and I don't get good things. And Hank goes, oh yeah, it would be great if the crazy lady who kidnapped us turned out to be our mother.
Yeah.
And Dean's like, yeah, I guess you're right.
I guess that's true. I guess you're right. That actually would suck, wouldn't it?
You know, it does occur to me that maybe one of the reasons Myra went off the deep end is knowing that she probably had a crush on Venture on her own individually without any input. And then he decided to have another lady donate her eggs so that he could make it so that he could pregnant himself.
That would
drive
be
anyone crazy,
wouldn't it?
She definitely walked in on him at one point, seeing him with the Death Stranding artificial womb over his chest, and just instantly had a psychotic break.
Yeah, you know, I 100% think that that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been around the same time. Yeah.
Poor Myra.
Poor Myra.
Sorry, Myra.
Poor Myra. This is also, as you might expect, the episode in which she just sort of stops appearing.
Oh yeah.
After this, because of the episode, the events of the episode made it so she doesn't appear anymore.
I also love. There's a lot of bits in this where we finally get to meet Radical Left and
Right Wing.
Right Wing.
Oh, yeah.
Great characters. We see 21 take on the role of what's his identity called?
The Viceroy.
The Viceroy, yeah, and he does the Rorschach blot test, where his character is getting annoyed that he keeps seeing butterflies.
Yeah.
I love that. If it weren't for 21 and Dr. Mrs. the Monarch himself would know absolutely nothing about butterflies, period. Because,
that's my favorite.
Because, like, 21 making Viceroy jokes is such a, like, obscure Lepidopterist thing that, like, the Monarch should know that. The Monarch, butterfly-themed supervillain, should know that. He does not know what a Viceroy is.
He doesn't know anything about Monarch butterflies, despite ostensibly being raised by them for, like, 3 months.
His catchphrase is "Feel the sting of the mighty monarch."
He doesn't know anything about monarch butterflies. He just likes the theming. It's in the first season where he's like, "I'd love it if you could meet her one day," and Dr. Girlfriend, because she's still Dr. Girlfriend at the time, is like, "Oh, honey, they only live for like a year." He doesn't even realize it.
Sarah, not even the first season, literally the first episode.
Yeah.
Because remember, they were in Mexico, and he says his whole thing was like, yeah, it was about Venture, but like really I wanted to go to Mexico and see if I could find my family.
And we get the bit in season 6 where he's yelling at 21 about what the fuck a morpho is, and 21 has to go, "It's a type of butterfly, dingus."
My other favorite part is in season 6. It's a quick throwaway gag. It's like a visual gag, but you can see as they're like building up the desk for like in his office. Eventually, a little butterfly in a in a glass pane shows up, and it has Mom in it. So apparently he did find her.
He did find her, or he thought he found her.
He thought he found her.
I'm choosing to believe, by the way, because I think it fits the time frame and the character. The only reason that 21 knows what a blue morpho is because he literally just earlier that week played Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker.
Yeah.
I would believe that, but I also think that, like, 21, in preparation for just being a good henchman, probably just read some Wikipedia articles on butterflies.
Because he's like, I want to be a good henchman, so I'm sure the boss also knows a lot about butterflies, so I need to be able to keep up with him. No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. He's an idiot.
Oh, Gary, he's so stupid. You don't understand.
That's
we were deprived of a scene in which the monarch sees a moth and goes, "What kind of butterfly is that?"
It's the fucking opposite of the anime meme of is this a pigeon? But it's Monarch looking at a pigeon and going, "Is this a butterfly?"
Oh god, it's so good. It's kind of like how the butter glider looks more like a moth than a butterfly.
Yeah,
Sure. Oh god,
I love it.
The other really good season 5 episode, in my opinion, is Bot Seeks Bot.
Bot Seeks Bot is very good.
Yeah,
it's important to talk about it because it's a setup for like a later plot thing we'll get into,
which is insane.
But also, the episode itself is premised on the OSI trying to like plant a robotic agent to imitate a villain and like go on an internet date with a guy who is RoboCop, who is also one of the council members of the Guild of Calamitous Intent. And there's this whole like crazy mounting meetup and showdown in a villain nightclub, and Brick Frog is there.
My favorite part about all of that is there is a New York Comic-Con interview that says that the only reason they wanted to do that was because they found the idea of getting two robot characters in the same room talking to each other and trying to be social was incredibly fun. Like, that is the impetus of the entire episode. They just wanted the 30-second interval of those two having the date together.
Yeah, they go to a dinner place to have a date, and they make some really awkward robot conversation, and they both go, "By the way, I cannot actually eat food. Neither can I. Let's go somewhere else." Okay.
Oh no.
After having set up a sting, and they're like, "Fuck, now we have to move it." And it's like, it's really good. It's really good.
And then Vendetta being like, "Oh no, it is my coworkers. I will go and say hi. I will be right back."
And then having that whole bit, because like eventually it ends up being, I think it's is it Brock who ends up in the bathroom in a Yeti costume with the date or something like that?
He knocks out. Wow,
I think it's Brock's in a Yeti costume.
He's trying to get Ghost Robot to put on the Yeti costume
so
they can escape. And Vendetta walks in and thinks that Yeti Mummy is fucking Ghost Robot. Or Galacticon is his identity.
Yeah. And then after having this scene that looks extremely like Galacticon and Ghost and Yeti Mummy or whatever fucking in a bathroom, gets knocked out, after which Brock does the Elder Scrolls thing of just stripping him right there and walking out in his clothing.
Yeah!
It's so good.
I wanna call out the intro of this episode with the Clue Clown's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
Where Captain Sunshine and a Wonder Boy who is clearly supposed to be Jason Todd are watching from the distance. And Vendetta talking to Red Mantle and Dragoon and realizing, like, he's like, "I understand you two were friends," and he's like, and Red Mantle or Dragoon is like, he was, I didn't quite care for the man."
Fucking Red Mantle and Dragoon are just genuinely become like the funniest pair on the show at a certain point.
They're so good.
Because I think it's after, we lose 24, right? And they no longer, and 21 becomes a more serious character. They're like, but we still like having the pair in any given scene who just shoot the shit and don't actually care about anything that's happening. And they're like, you know who will do it? These two geriatrics who are literally joined at the neck.
Yeah. I love the wrinkle of the joke in Too Soon, where the crime clown tells a Riddler style riddle at the funeral, and it turns out that he is a Jack-in-the-Box, and it pops out of the casket. This is his own joke, his own doing, but you can hear Red Mantle in the background going, "Too soon, too soon."
And then I think the only time it ever happens in the series, Red Mantle just gets out of his chair, puts his hand on the ground, and geomances dirt over the Clue Clown's coffin.
We never get to see him actually be a villain because he kind of stopped the second he had another head attached to him.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, he has powers.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, right, he's an arch villain.
What else? There's other bits in this season that I think are like I said, they're really good highlights. The bit in Sphinx Rising where after Gary sabotages Shirley and Brock's undercover mission, and Hunter Gathers is chewing them out, and again showing the development where Brock is like, yeah, he screwed up, but he's not bad at being a good guy, and we don't really want to stop him.
He's doing his job. He's
trying his best, and because early on we get that bit where 21's like, you guys left me Sphinx, and Shoreleaf goes, I expected you to use the hot tub a couple of times. Yeah, his exact line after revealing that they killed the villain they're trying to trail, he goes, that's so Raven.
He's such a fucking dweeb. He's a cool dweeb, but I would love to be friends with that guy in real life.
Oh, the bit where Hatred and 21 are watching the Monarch fly overhead, and 21's like, I got my money on an acid or a magnet thing, and then ready the acid magnet.
Yeah, the acid magnet is an extremely good joke in season 5.
That one's a certified banger.
Yeah, I love the follow-up joke where he jettisons the lunchroom and 21 is like, it's Wednesday, right? Oh yeah, those boxes are full of buffalo wings. We should get them.
Oh, God.
The season finale of 5, though, I think is really good. Where at the end of Bot Seeks Bot, where the Monarch actually gets a hold of Venture, and the boys are sent to live with Action Man and Colonel Gentleman.
Yes. I love Hank being Action Man's perfect wingman. It's it goes back to the fact that Hank is gonna be fine no matter what. It's the fact that he's thrown into this extremely weird situation. He's like, I can roll with it. I don't care. He doesn't.
He puts on this disaffected Reefer Madness rocker persona to help Action Man score, and then he participates in grave pissing, and then he initiates his little brother to grave pissing.
That is one of my favorite Team Venture things. Because that does genuinely feel like their only sign of actual camaraderie in the entirety of Team Venture.
So it's a reference, by the way, to the pilot. Brock at one point kills a mummy and then immediately pisses on it. And then Hank and Dean ask what the hell he's doing, and he turns around and he says, I'm desecrating the dead so it doesn't come back to life.
Yeah.
So presumably all of these guys, it's a tradition to double tap the corpse.
Right.
That's amazing.
Perfection.
Yeah, we get Hank with Action Man, and who is trying to score with, as we find out, Billy's mom.
That's right.
Who is the Silk Spectre?
Yes. Who is it's Triple Threat is her code name.
Right.
Because you get that great flashback where you see the Team Venture and then Triple Threat and her partner like in action, and Action Man is like, she's just so nice. I just want to show her my filth, you know.
That's definitely like one of the most Action Man lines.
Yeah.
Action Man, frankly, is a really great character who I feel like, he gets a lot of use, but not as much as I feel like he could have.
He could have been way more present, I feel like.
Because he is just like he is just, okay, we want Brock, but we want a Brock who specifically has the weakness of being like 90 years old. But that also makes him like 3 times funnier.
I got plastic knees!
90 years old, and he fought his jet and psycho addiction from Fallout 4.
Yeah. And that is like a really great thing where like he's talking to Rhodes, like he's like, he took those drugs for God and country. And he stayed married to his wife until she died. Like, he didn't cheat on her or anything. Like, he's like, no, I'm a changed man. Now I gotta piss on this corpse.
The implication that Jonas insisted that he take whatever the fuck drugs he was supposed to be on the entire time.
Yeah.
I feel like in a different confluence of circumstances, Hatred and Action Man would have got along famously.
Oh yeah,
100%.
I genuinely think that it's just a generational thing, and they never met, and that's all it is.
Yeah,
I think they just missed each other.
2 ships passing through the night.
Like I think we see some of them in the same scene as each other throughout the series, obviously, but they never like directly interact. To my record,
right? They're always in crowd shots, or like something's going on that doesn't give them a chance to like talk. But we also get Dean with Colonel Gentleman, which is perfectly fitting for Dean's bad circumstances throughout season 5. Is he gets saddled in Morocco with Colonel Gentleman.
Yeah.
This is also the funniest bit of that too, is that like as part of the way the episode wraps up, if it like there's a thing of like Colonel Gentleman like, well, I can't live it in Morocco. It's illegal to be gay here. And or whatever, and just ends up moving back to America anyway. And it's just the most like classic Venture Brothers, like just completely wasting your time with a side plot that accomplishes nothing.
Yeah, like how do you resolve the fact that Colonel Gentleman's like the shiny veneer of Morocco is fading, like he's lost Kiki, he's just alone in this giant mansion with no one to talk to. How do you resolve this plot? He moves.
He moves back to America and becomes part of a throuple with Action Man and Billy's mom.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Good for them.
Well, if you don't mind the sound of old people fucking.
Yeah.
Video games Colonel Gentleman wishes he had when he was a child, but weren't invented yet. Number 1, Fortnite.
The scene where he's getting Dean to watch episodes of Sabrina the Teenage Witch and document every time it's a real cat and when it's a puppet.
Yeah.
It's a great thing where it's like, you have this character whose gimmick is not only A, I have autistic hyperfixations, but B, I am going to delegate them to
yes.
a boy. Yeah. Is the boy's job to be autistic for me. I'm retired now.
Yeah.
I have the time to be doing that, but it is beneath me.
Video games number 2. Fitch Day Night Real to Newer.
Except I would make them write the route where you can have a torrid romance with Cucullin. I bet he knows how to work a shaft.
That's exactly it.
Just the idea of Colonel Gentleman info dumping you about Fate Stay Night lore.
It's just every episode of That's Hell you're walking into, but with a Scottish accent.
Genuinely, I think Colonel Gentleman is the only character in all of Venture Brothers who's played Fate Stay Night.
That's correct.
No,
the original Japanese
the interaction is literally like, "So you said your name was Augustus St. Cloud. What a coincidence! I also have an NP5 Saber Stolfo. Perhaps you and I might have something in common."
Of course, to paraphrase one of them acting as Colonel Gentleman, Of course I have a crush on Astolfo. Doesn't make me gay, it makes me smart.
Yeah. It's my favorite fucking thing. He like, which DVD season was that in? I think it was 2. It's literally like they're talking to each other, and they were explaining that, like, you know, Colonel Gentleman is of course bi, and just bursts into that phrase just like mid-sentence.
Yeah, they're talking. It was at like a con or something where they're doing bits as the character, and he's talking about because someone asked, like, does Colonel Gentleman have sex, like, or him and Kiki in an actual relationship? And he says, yeah, of course I have sex with Kiki. He's beautiful.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me gay, it makes me smart.
I love him.
He's so fucking funny. He cuts off a guy's arm and kills him with his own thumb.
That's
It's
right.
so good.
Dean, go find a song on the jukebox. This man wants to dance with your pop-pop. And then Dean just goes, okay.
Okay.
This episode is also really, really good because the Pupa twins die.
Yes, we
Yeah.
finally get rid of the fucking...
Hench has killed Hench.
Hench has killed Hench.
It's the great part of how we talk about the way the status quo changes, because the thing that happens at the end of this is that Sergeant Hatred in his hover tank accidentally blows up the hive and everyone in it, and it crashes into a fiery wreck into the Monarch's house.
And it kills the fucking Moppets, thank God. It also kills every other henchman except for one.
And he's forced... And the post-credits thing here related to that is part of the setup for the next season after the special, is that he's forced to move into his childhood home in Newark, which has long since been condemned.
And is currently being squatted in by the Revenge Society.
Yes.
That will be important in all this in Gargantua too.
It's a really funny gag too, because we have seen the Revenge Society like having meetings in this building like before this episode, and it's like, oh, they're in a nice place. It's kind of like an old rundown place, but it's like a nice place. Where the hell are they? And it turns out that it's like it's the fucking Monarch's family home.
Yeah.
I forget, was that like an intentional decision or was that just happenstance?
Intentional. I think because I know for a fact that ENJQ has mentioned like there's a lot of things that were going on. There was a lot of moving parts in season 5 that he knew about back in season 2.
Oh, I mean, like, I know it's intentional for them, but, like, was it intentional for the Revenge Society? Like, was this, like...
No, that was coincidence.
Like, I think it's coincidence, yeah.
Because I could definitely... Because it's one of those things, like, how we have that bit in an earlier season where, Phantom Limb kills Manitor because he's literally too stupid to realize that was the Monarch just giving him a fake name.
Mm-hmm.
In this scenario where he could hypothetically be having moral revenge on Monarch for having stolen his house, except that he doesn't know it's the Monarch's house.
I think it's that one. He didn't know.
What a fucking moron.
My favorite part about Phantom Limb is that he presents himself superficially as incredibly competent, but you very quickly realize he is not hot shit at all. Like, remember in most of season 2, he plays himself up like, I'm the Sovereign's number 2, ignoring the fact that there is a council of 13 guys who are the Sovereign's number 2. So at best, he is like number 14 or 15 in the ranks.
Remember, everyone, he is the victor at Cremation Creek.
He is the victor at Cremation Creek. Do not interrogate this even a little bit.
Not even slightly should you consider anyone else as the victor of Cremation Creek.
Do not look up the Wikipedia article on the Cremation Creek battle.
Well, yes, it was 0-2, but I got some good hits in.
You
That's
did.
basically a win.
You didn't perfect me. This episode also has 2 really good bits in it at the end of it, where the before the stinger, the last line of the episode is after 21 comes home and like the cocoon crashes into their house.
Mm-hmm.
Because Hatred is yelling, like telling Gary to get out of there, and like he's apologizing but not really because he's still mad at Gary.
Yeah.
The ends with Monarch going, who the fuck is Gary? after like mourning and like waiting like for like his spouse to come home from war, waiting for 21 to come back.
Yeah.
Ends with, who the fuck is Gary?
He doesn't
21 having been his henchman for, at this point, what may as well have been like 20 plus entire years, if not.
Yeah. And then capping off like Dean's whole development through this whole season with Hank is that he finally reveals to Hank that they are clones.
Yeah.
And it's this thing that Dean has been like grappling with all season, right? Like the season starts with Dean completely fucking up any possibility of relationship with Triana, right? And getting completely disillusioned with like everything about being a Venture, and then immediately learns that he's a clone and has no one he can trust anymore with this, basically, right? And when he finally, because Hank asks like, "Hey man, what's been wrong with you all year?" And when Dean finally tells him, Hank just goes, "That's fucking cool."
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Oh, hell yeah, I love Metal Gear Solid.
Like, you know, like, and that I think this we've said over and over again, Hank is going to be okay, no matter what, right?
Right.
Hank's going to be okay. Because Dean has Hank, Dean is also going to be okay.
That's right.
They're this perfect balance, and it's something that Steak Bentley mentions, but like, I wish he had gone more into it, but I'm glad because we can go into it. Is that because he has a line where he's like, it couldn't just be the Dean Venture show. It has to be about brothers, right?
Right.
And that's true. And it's not just because Doc and Jackson like writing duos. It's that this whole series is about how having someone who knows your story and has lived it the same way you have, but has a completely different perspective on it, how that helps balance you out.
Yeah, how it makes you a little bit more sane.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's somebody else who can look at the exact same circumstances that you kind of came from and see them in a totally different light and be like, yeah, it's not that bad. Like, it's kind of cool to be a clone.
I think it's an important, like, differentiator between the two, and the thing that balances them out. That Dean is someone who would be basically immediately psychologically undone by an I have no mouth and I must scream scenario. Hank would just roll with it. Allied Master Computer would have Hank in the I have no mouth and I must scream hell for probably literally 10 million years before just going, I give up, and trying all of its circuits at once.
Yeah.
Because Hank would think it's extremely cool to be stuck in a computer. He'd be trying to do reboot. Are you kidding?
Oh, hell yeah, I'm like Neo from The Matrix.
Well, he'd say, I'm like the guy from The Matrix when he was in The Matrix. No, he'd say, I'm like the guy from John Wick when he was in The Matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man, I wonder if I'm gonna meet a hot cyber babe and have cyber sex in The Matrix. like John Wick did in The Matrix.
Yeah, you know, Hank is going to be okay no matter what. And because of that, Dean's also going to be okay.
He's going to drag Dean along behind him and make him be okay, goddammit.
And I think that's like, and it's, you know, we get those rare moments of like them actually being brothers. And it's way more pronounced here than it was previously. Like season 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. Or they actually like do get to be brothers more. And I just think it's great, and it really lends to this thesis of why the show is called The Venture Brothers, and why like Rusty is the way he is because he didn't have a brother.
Right.
Jonas is the way he is because he didn't have a brother.
Maybe,
probably.
Jonas might have a brother, but also might have ended up like that anyway, whether his relationship with his brother is better or not.
Please
Jury's out.
8 and 10 years. Who knows?
Yeah. I think that's about all I have to say about season 5.
Yeah, I think it's probably about a good time to move on to Gargantua too.
What Color Is Your Clean Suit is a very good episode. It's an hour long, and it's worth acknowledging that it exists because Rusty actually gets a W. It costs a couple people's lives, but he gets a W out of it.
That's right.
Oh yeah, that episode where they have a stunt cast of Aziz Ansari and the whole joke is that there's eventually a Dean versus Aziz Ansari thing where like a trial by contest or whatever, and like he just keeps challenging the things like Indian burns and things like that, and everyone just declares that Dean is superior at the Indian sports.
Yeah.
Which is the most like that era of Adult Swim joke that you really get in season 5, which is stunt casting Aziz Ansari specifically for that.
We got to acknowledge that this is also the episode where we get eat the pennies, quiz boy.
Eat the pennies, quiz boy.
Just eat the pennies.
No, I'm not gonna eat pennies.
Just eat the pennies.
Oh, you poop pennies. Just eat the pennies.
Pennies, quiz boy.
Eat the pennies, quiz boy.
Pennies, quiz boy. I was searching for $1 in pennies, which you must eat.
And then we do get the really nice stinger of Monarch and Sheila just stoned, sitting around talking about how much they like each other.
It's so cute.
It's really cute.
I love them.
It's Bitty Quiz Boy. I do have all of More Than Meets the Eye in a physical copy. Every single page is printed on human skin.
He's like,
read it all.
He's like, yes, I do have all of IDW's epic More Than Meets the Eye by James Roberts. Oops, the pages are starting to fall out, Quiz Boy.
Oh no, they're falling directly into my toilet water. I'll just have to fish them out with this one-of-a-kind golden Megatron figure.
It's just him shattering like a bunch of gold plastic Syndrome figures in his hand.
Oh no, the poop water is causing this golden Megatron to disintegrate.
I'm just imagining that one YouTube video, the ancient one that's explaining gold plastic syndrome, but with with Augustus's voice, just this is Randy, and Randy, it sucks, and he just very gently squeezes him.
Shatters him. Yeah. Okay, though.
I do want to spend a decent amount of time talking about my favorite season finale. I think this one is even better than Operation Prom.
Mm-hmm.
All This in Gargantua 2 is a phenomenal episode.
Mm-hmm.
I love All This in Gargantua 2. It's really good.
There's so much happening in it.
Yeah, I think this might be like... This probably is the best season finale. Like, it's just so good.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also just because it also has the benefit of basically being like a mini movie. You know, we talked about that at the beginning of the episode. It's a mini movie. It can have like a whole bunch of shit going on.
Yeah. It also, I think this is easily the most status quo change of the Venture Brothers at all.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They kill so many characters and tie up so many knots for this. Which again, like, it's a thing, like, this is the leading into season 6 and the major formula shift, right? Where there's like, no, we are going to burn this cornfield.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Take
Everything,
only what we need and move on.
And by cornfield we mean complex.
That's right. We're gonna burn down the house.
And by complex we mean Space Casino and also the main quote-unquote set that the entire show has happened until this point.
Half the villains, too. Underbite and Phantom Limb, well, not Phantom Limb, but the rest of the Revenge Society, more or less, are gone.
Yeah, they're... I don't know if they're dead, they just stopped showing up.
Underbite stopped showing up and may or may not be dead. I think Richard Impossible makes it off, but is just never seen again. Because the show, basically.
Fat Chance and Underbite are just MIA. We don't know if they're dead. The portal, because a lot of the reigning members of Revenge Society fall out of a Fat Chance portal.
Mm-hmm.
So he was presumably alive up until that moment. But who knows where the other ones are?
Right.
Who knows?
Which again is like finally like, yeah, I think it's hilarious that Baron Underbite exits the show and is replaced basically by Radical Left, who is just like a character that has even less going on than Underbite.
Yeah, because like completely devoid of like, because like Underbite is at least like, okay, here's the original joke, here's the original character. He's kind of doing like a pastiche on like a certain era of like fake Hitlers, right?
But he's Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very much a unique kind of guy, I think. Whereas radical left and far right or whatever are it's just Two-Face.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even like a different. It's not even a particularly different Two-Face. It is just Two-Face.
Just doing Two-Face.
He doesn't have a storied history with the rest of the series. Like he was a background character that existed in season 5, and like maybe a couple like background shots here and there. But like for some reason he gets recruited to the new Council of 13 over established characters like Baron Underbite and Impressor Impossible.
I think it's just that like they wanted a gag character, and Underbite and Impossible have too much history with the main cast at this point, and they didn't want to have to also like juggle everything going on with those characters. They're like, no, we just want a joke villain. We just want a joke villain who can be just kind of like an asshole. They needed to take up that spot, right?
They needed a seat filler, at least one seat filler.
It should, and like I know they give him Justice later, kind of. It should have been Brick Frog.
It should have been Brick Frog.
It could have been Brick Frog, but I think that would have ruined Brick Frog's later jokes.
Well, the thing is, like, the thing about Brick Frog is I feel like he would have been a significant improvement because he could be the union representative who's on the board of directors, right?
Mm-hmm. This episode is this whole movie is also we get introduced to a lot of other characters that kind of stop showing up later on, but I really like Amber Gold and Headshot as being this weird kind of like Hawkeye Black Widow thing.
Yeah.
And they both suck.
I like Amber. Like Amber Gold is like, there's another character who probably should have come back because she's really funny and has like a lot of fun like interactions with other characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of her and Brock's like weird chemistry is really fun.
Yeah.
But she's, she did that. She gets to exist kind of in this dimension.
Mm-hmm.
In the All This in Gargantua 2. Is All This in Gargantua 2? What'd you say? Oh.
She does show up in season 6 though.
Yeah,
like
she's around, yeah.
She's around. I just, By the way, is All This in Gargantua 2, is that a reference to All This in Heaven too?
Of course it is.
Mm-hmm.
Of course it is.
Every title is a reference to something.
It's a reference, yeah. Okay.
I feel like especially when it doesn't make sense, which is again like why I'm like, well, yeah, there is a phrase "any which way but loose," but I choose to believe that "Any Which Way" by Zeus is specifically a reference to the 1970s really bad monkey comedy featuring a drunk guy with his pet monkey who do crimes.
Absolutely.
Sure.
The whole plot of this kicks off with the just like the guild falling apart, the Council of 13 falling apart, and like the members dropping off one by one because David Bowie is reneging on the Sovereign is reneging on his deal with the investors.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like I love this sudden cowardice in the Sovereign.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I think that's such an interesting villainous wrinkle. We've seen all these characters who are like real people outside of their roles. And it's kind of interesting to see the Sovereign being a cowardly villain, like a truly despicable state for a person to have,
Oh yeah, it's like you said though. He's like, oh yeah, I'm the head of the villain guild, and I'm backstabbing my investors. Oh no, are you so surprised?
Yeah, who could have seen this coming?
Who could have seen this coming?
Yeah, it's one of those rare moments where like these characters are so well rounded and fleshed out and like complicated that like you do forget sometimes that like the Monarch and Sheila are villains. They don't have a strong moral compass.
Oh, I don't forget that ever. Yeah. I know neither of those two have a strong moral compass.
Yeah.
They tortured Helper.
Maybe not Malcolm, but like Sheila like shows a lot more signs like being like a more rounded individual. Like you forget that like then she'll do something where like she does like backstab someone or like set up some kind of scheme. And it's like, oh yeah, she's just the bad guy.
That's right. She's a villain.
Which in you know, payment as a coward deserves. The Sovereign does all this. He sets the entire council to explode, killing off the members one by one, and then just gets taken out by headshot.
Yeah,
accidentally.
His gun accidentally misfires. Is the best part. He wasn't even aiming for it.
So funny. You just
when we got to that part in the episode where like the gun goes off and you hear like ah, and then like the bird drops. I literally was like, to you, I was like, wait, that's it?
That's it. That's how the Sovereign dies.
Sure, okay.
Much like the actual series, it just kind of ends.
It just kind of ends.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's it.
That's kind of
that shot accidentally, and then the eagle falls, and you just hear Shortleaf go, "Oh, great!"
Yeah, like I don't even think they realized they shot the Sovereign. I think Shortleaf was just worried they accidentally just shot like a protected species.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because he was a bald eagle, right?
Yeah, he was a bald eagle.
Yeah, that's still a protected species. They just committed like a huge felony on accident.
We finally say goodbye to Henchman Zero, Scott Hall.
Tragedy.
And we also in this episode say goodbye to, to a lot of other characters.
A lot of characters.
Because I'm not really going by the thing as well. But we also say goodbye to other series long-standing favorites, such as Killinger, who never shows up again.
Tragic.
And Treister.
Yeah.
And little bro JJ.
Yeah.
I honestly. Go ahead.
This is like one of my favorite, like, one of the reasons that I love this episode as much as I do is because we get to see JJ, like, show that vulnerability that, like, you really only would ever see, the better Venture Brother to give, and, give him that one extra moment of, like, regardless of the animosity that those two began with, in like the 2 years that he was alive and out of the womb, JJ loved Rusty as a big brother.
JJ spends this episode pretending he's been around the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Rusty lets him.
Yeah, he's not actually going to disrupt that because, like, he's family, right?
He is genuinely shocked and remorseful that when JJ reveals that he's dying.
Yeah, like it's one of the few times the kind of emotional thing in the show actually like really hits, because it's like, I don't know, JJ was a character you're like, oh, they're never gonna kill JJ. Like sure they'll kill off like 24, but it feels like kind of weird to kill one of the good guys, I guess, especially the good guy who has his shit all together. But that's kind of the thing, right? JJ had his shit together. He actually was like doing good, and it's like, well, in the Venture Brothers, if you're competent, you know what you're doing, then you either are relegated to second in command, like 21 and Dr. Mrs. the Monarch, or you're dead, right? And like, yeah, it's just like, no, and it's not even like, it doesn't feel spiteful.
No.
It's like, no, of course this had to happen because, like,
the difference between JJ and other characters like Underbite, right? Mm-hmm. Or anything, it's like for like Underbite and Triana and even like characters that just kind of quietly faded away. Mm-hmm. It feels like we don't really know what to do with them, and we're kind of out of jokes for them. Right. For JJ, it feels like, no, this is where he has to go.
Yeah, this is the correct time to write him out of the show.
This is how his story, his role in the series ends. This is how it has to end, like this.
Right. And because like they obviously were planning to change the status quo of the show in a big way and change like the actual setting of the show, they were like, well, JJ can't be around for it because that would make it too easy, right?
It would make it too familiar.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, it would be too easy for them to move to New York because that's what happens. And, like, have JJ there who knows the score and knows how to run the company, right? Like, instead, it's, no, these people are still idiots and they're not going to ever get a real W because they're a bunch of idiots. And if JJ were still alive, he would be able to kind of play damage control, right?
Hmm.
And so, like, yeah, JJ has to die.
Yeah.
And it's like one of the moments where the emotional beats of the show are sold well, and it all pays off in a really good way. Yeah.
We get a lot. We get a good moment between Rusty and Dean in this episode.
Oh yeah.
Where they're working on they're trying to reactivate the shields, and it's just the two of them, and they solve a problem together.
And they actually like reason their way through it. It's like, oh yeah, just like this one time, they get like again an unambiguous W.
Yeah. Rusty gets to save a lot of people.
Yeah, he gets to actually be a hero again for the first time in like God knows how long.
Yeah.
It also gives us like a really good moment of like, no matter what Dean does, he's going to be following in the footsteps of his father a lot closer than Hank.
Mm-hmm.
But unlike Rusty, he's able to acknowledge the faults of like the folly in doing that and can say it to his dad's face. Which I think Rusty was never able to do.
Yes.
So Dean is also going to be fine. It's just, he's still going to end up like Rusty. He's going to be Rusty.
There's a season 7 episode that I'm excited to get to, where we get that exact conversation. We get the conversation between Dean and Rusty that Rusty and Jonas never got to have.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But no, I really absolutely love this entire finale. It's hilarious. It's heartfelt. There's like a lot of stuff. There's so many moving parts in it.
Oh yeah.
I love that throughout all of this, Monarch and Gary are just playing 20 questions in the shuttle.
Yeah, they're not doing anything.
They don't get to contribute to anything at all. Like,
No.
Sheila is like dying.
Yeah, she's been shot, and I'm like, if you kill off Dr. Girlfriend, then this means war.
Yeah,
right?
then it's over. But like, while she's doing all this and trying to save the Monarch,
Yeah, her idiot husband.
and they're just like, well, we're stuck in the shuttle. We can't turn off the autopilot. I don't know.
My favorite part is they turn on the autopilot. This is an ancient spaceship that goes to Gargantua 1. A space station that no longer exists.
Yeah.
It literally like hit the atmosphere where the Gargantua one was supposed to be at, and then I think it just turned itself off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I found out something recently that's like not actually related to the show at all, but is like it's just something I'm thinking about because it's horrifying to consider a little bit. But so like those spaceships are in like various degrees of Earth orbit, right?
Right.
If you put something in like geostationary orbit, like that far up in the atmosphere that it doesn't actually move, like it is locked to a position with Earth.
Mm-hmm.
The time scale for even if that satellite like loses all power and will eventually fall to Earth, the time scale at which that would happen is basically not before the sun explodes. Like it would literally take dozens of billions of years.
Huh.
Just because like the pull of gravity is only strong enough to keep it from completely flying away, but not actually strong enough to bring it back down.
Interesting.
I've learned something.
Earth
What
is
else?
hell.
That's correct.
We finally learn what Killinger and the investors actually are.
That's
Do
right.
we?
We've been. They decided to answer that by giving you like 3 more questions.
Demons from hell. Don't worry about
Yeah.
it.
They're
but-
evil and they have lightsaber duels in their mind.
In their mind palace, yeah.
And they're named after Roman gods of intercardinal winds.
And I love the bit in the very, very end where Killinger removes the bullet from Sheila and then gives her a lollipop. Which she takes.
Of Of course.
Well, yeah, that's Killinger. Are you not
Yeah.
going to take the lollipop from his magic murder bag?
And then the punchline of the episode of the finale, where Killinger gives that speech about how he's gathered them all to Meteor Majour, and he's like, I see 13 chairs here, and Monarch runs up to one of them, and it spins around, and Killinger goes, "Not you."
That's the best part.
I want for I told you guys this, but for anyone who was listening to this and does not get the joke, at JJ's funeral, there is a bit where, as part of his last will and testament, the pirate captain sings a eulogy of the crash test dummies. And the joke is not that JJ really liked the band The Crash Test Dummies.
Right.
The joke is that the will says, play Crash Test Dummies at my funeral, which is a song by the Crash Test Dummies. He wanted the pirate captain to play the Crash Test Dummies song titled At My Funeral.
The problem is there are so many, like, subtly layered jokes like that just everywhere. And, like, it's insane how often, like, we all have managed to miss, like, probably dozens of different jokes like that.
Dozens.
There's...
What
the
I
episode
like about that specific bet, actually, before you continue, is like I kind of have this feeling about some of like 6 and 7, which we'll get into, where there's part of it where sometimes, and like this isn't the case for all the weird referential humor, but there's certain cases where it's like, here's a reference to something that is like a reference to something, not because it's something that like is particularly important to me, but because it's a point of reference for the life I'm living, right? Where it's like that one robot talking about watching Skins on Netflix or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, none of those two fucks have any particularly strong opinions on Skins. They were watching it on Netflix when they wrote the episode, I'm certain. That is the one that for me is the capstone on, like, I mean, not just the capstone on that era of Venture Brothers, because it is, but also the capstone on they make a reference, and if you don't get it, that's your fault.
Yeah.
If you didn't get that joke, your music taste isn't good enough. That's all there is to it.
There is the episode in season 6 with the Legion of Doom parody, where I'm looking at all these people and I'm like, I'm sure this is funny if you get it.
They still do that. They still do that, but I think like season 6 is also like, and not to like get too far into it ahead, but that's the one where they'll start just doing like, this is a topical reference.
Yeah.
We do not have any particularly strong opinions about this reference, but it is topical and grounds us to our viewers, so we need us to stay the show alive. Oh, please, God, keep the show alive.
Please don't cancel this show. Oh, God.
I also love the gentleman's agreement in the epilogue, where Monarch and Gary come to pick up their rental. And Brock has to be like, come on, man, no arching today. And Monarch's like, oh, no, I'm just here to pick up my car.
Don't worry about it.
Can I use your fence for a jump? And we learn...
And then, like, the big status quo change happens at the very end, which is that we're going to New York.
Yeah.
JJ left Rusty everything in the will, more or less.
For some godforsaken reason.
Sally gets Spider Skull Island.
Yes.
But Rusty gets the $1 billion company in New York. How will he fuck it up, kids?
It's one of those, like, I don't think it's obviously not earned. However, anytime Rusty made a win, it was in Jonas's favor.
Right.
So Jonas is understandably in the camp of, well, Rusty can make it work if, like, you know, push comes to shove, right? Mm-hmm. Not realizing that all of those W's were the only W's that Rusty's ever had.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, New York.
Yeah.
This is a weird season. I really liked this season. I don't know if it's my second favorite season.
Does anyone want to be the champion for season 6?
I can't because I can't be because I'm extremely partial to season 7. So
Yeah,
It
probably.
would make sense to me then, Sarah, if you took this one, because I think season 6 tends to be the season I am actually coldest on of all of them. So I don't think it's going to be me. But I would love to hear you make an argument for this one being second best to season 4.
I can make the argument just because I think the fucking Blue Morpho plot kicks ass.
It's really good. It's definitely the highlight of season 6.
I think it's the highlight of season 6. It's when I guess I could make the argument that season 6 is my second favorite, even though I think I like season 7 a little bit more. But season 6 does have the Blue Morpho plotline, which is really good. It's just unambiguously really good. It's the funniest, the funniest possible twist of how everything goes is that suddenly the Monarch, in order to become more of a villain, has to do vigilante superhero shit, and he's really good at it, and 21 is really good at it, and it's the season where they go from being the Monarch and 21, and it's the Monarch and Gary, and they're besties, right?
Yeah.
It owns. It's really good.
Season 6 and 7 are really good at showing you just how good Malcolm is at his job.
Yeah. He's kind of an idiot, but he's kind of accidentally really good at his job, kind of the way that sometimes Rusty gets accidental W's as well, which makes sense.
Well, like we talked about in season 2, season 3 with the Dr. Killinger episode, it is the thing, yes, it does actually go both ways. Rusty would be a way more successful villain, and Monarch would be a way more successful hero. But neither of them actually really wants to do that.
They would. It's like Rusty says in the movie. I want to go back to being a middling super scientist in the middle of nowhere. He's happy in mediocrity.
I could use my powers to cure cancer, but I want to turn people into dinosaurs.
That's right. And we get we get Hank being his most Hank. This is when Hank really his own guy and really doesn't need the ventures anymore. He just gets to be Hank.
The minute Brock said the word Steve McQueen, a light switch flipped in Hank's brain.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, and he got a Justin Bieber haircut and started going after women who remind him of his uncle's wife.
Yeah, and Hank he's good at it. He's got he can actually win over a chick, and he's good at it. And my boy gets done extremely dirty at the end of season 7, but it's fine.
It's fine.
He's got Riz, and also he is the embodiment of the tweet. She lets me hit it from the back because I'm peculiar.
He's got that goofy Riz, and we stan a boy. Every time I see Hank at this point, I just can hear sweet, sweet, innocent baby, playing full blast in the back of my head.
It happening one night is such a good Hank-centric episode. For that, him do. This is the difference between it happening one night is the thematic opposite of Victor Echo November, right? Where it's the same premise of teenager's first bad date, right? But instead of it being played for laughs that Hank and Dean are horribly inept at actually dating someone and they're trying so hard to impress their dates, because Hank has become a character and not a joke,
right?
It works this time.
It works because he's funny and charming, and he's actually trying hard, right?
Because you think about it from her perspective, if you're in college and you're going on a date with someone who you think's kind of cute, but it's whatever, and they do this shit to you, they have heightened themselves to the top of the special list of oh my god, you are inimitable.
There's two reactions: either she runs away, or she goes, "I can't not fuck him."
Yeah, no. It's great. Like, I guess that's why season 6 owns, is because, like,
Mhm.
and it's the same reason that season 4 is really good, is because that they're good Hank seasons, baby.
Yeah.
And we love Hank in this family.
That's
They're
right.
good for developing these characters even more and making them sanding off all of the, not sanding off, but like redefining all of the joke parts of them into character traits
Yeah.
instead of gag vehicles, right?
Yeah, I think the problem with season 6 and why, like, season 6 kind of falls short of, like, the other really good ones is that I think a lot of the Rusty plot lines are just fucking lame.
They're not nearly as interesting as what's going on with Malcolm and Hank, for sure.
Right,
For-
yeah, like,
For me, because like I do like season 7 more than season 6, and I think it is literally just a matter of cast. Like season 7 prominently features Red Death, who's one of the best characters in the show.
Oh yeah, easily.
But I think for me, part of why I like, and again, like I mentioned, like season 6 is probably the one I'm coldest on. I say that, and like I still think even season 6 at its worst is like a clean 7.5.
Oh yeah, they're all great episodes still.
But I think for me, there is an important change in one of the things being left behind in like the new status quo or whatever, is the formula where instead of having, okay, this is an episode where something happens and then maybe there's an advancement of the season's A plot as like a tangential thread that's going on, it is now a continuous narrative. And I think there's part of that to me makes it difficult to, like, because for me, like, I can't really, like, I remember the events of season 6 pretty well, but I find it really difficult to think about specific episodes because they all kind of blend together into a big season 6 lump for me.
Yeah, I totally get that. There's no episodic anymore.
No, like the blue morpho, oh my god, my words! You can tell I got 3 hours of sleep. The Blue Morpho storyline fucking whips, and it's one of the best ongoing storylines in the Venture Brothers. But it's also like a thing where that is happening in every episode. Mm-hmm. And so there's not like a specific episode where you get like, oh yeah, this episode rules, this is the Blue Morpho episode. The whole thing is the Blue Morpho episode.
Right.
In fact, season 7 is also significantly the Blue Morpho episode for like the first half.
Yeah.
The thing that I like, there's not a lot of season 6 that I really remember because a lot of it like doesn't come together particularly well in terms of like any especially like lasting impact on the B plots. However, what few times I do remember the D plot are like extremely like burned into my brain. Like the I think it's the second episode where Augustus St. Cloud steals a fucking rubber bouncy ball from a Duran Duran music video.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, the entire like back plot of that is just like it's just Billy making the argument that, you know, like pop culture matters because it matters to people. It is me. He's basically making the memes argument in Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's also being very much like the author stand-in, like, no, this is why I keep making references to shit that you don't know or care about. It matters to me, goddammit.
Yeah.
It matters.
Yeah,
He saved the world. It matters.
Yeah, I love that.
If the red ball from the Duran Duran video didn't exist, I wouldn't have made this show. It's load-bearing.
Yeah.
It's a load-bearing rubber ball.
The thing, the weird references and pop culture jokes that you make with your friends matters because they're important to you and they are what helps you build those friendships.
Stupid Uncle Phil.
Yeah, like Saturn and I just quoting Fesh Pence and Hank Up the Hill at each other constantly on these calls. It's just
But some of
how
those
our
are
friendship builds. That's just how it fucking works. Yeah, I love that line. Where Billy is like, it's the please tell me ball. We saved the world.
We did.
Yeah, it's important.
It's important. It matters.
Yeah.
It's really good. It also is an extremely funny way to. But this is also like when I'm like, man, some of these Rusty Venture plot lines are fucking lame. This episode has a really lame one too with fucking the captain getting back on tranquilizers. It's just like I'm so bored. Go back to other stuff.
But you have to admit, I got the dart monkey on me back is a good fucking line.
You're right.
It's
I
a
can't
good
argue
line.
that.
It is just like, yeah, it sucks to have that plot line when you literally have Hatred sitting around in the lobby twiddling his thumbs for the entire
Yeah.
next 2 seasons. Like, oh
Yeah.
man.
Come on, use my boy more. Use my big horrible boy.
I do love Hatred in his big puffy security guard coat.
Mhm.
He's so
I think that's a good look for him.
He's so
Really
fucking. It very suddenly becomes like, oh, he isn't just like Uncle Hatred. He's like, there's kind of like a grandfatherly vibe to him now.
Mhm.
Yeah, that specific type of coat
Mhm.
is an old man coat.
He's just an old guy.
He's
Which
just
is
a-
funny because he's often everybody calls him an old man. He's like, "How old do you think I
Yeah,
am?"
you get that great bit with
Yeah,
Brock,
which
with
is
Brock and
funny.
Orangutan. Where he's like, "How old do you think I am?"
But this is just it also is just an excuse to sell Pete and Billy to Venture Industries.
Yeah.
So we can still have Pete and Billy hanging out in the
Hmm.
basement with Rusty like they're in college again, which is great.
This season is also the one where we meet. Speaking of Orangutan, we do get a ton of fantastic designs.
Oh yeah. This is a great
Um,
episode for just like not one-off characters, but like two-off characters.
Mhm.
Like guys who barely show up but have great fucking designs
Like-
and shit.
We get. I love Think Tank.
Mm.
Mhm.
We get Copycat. We get Wide Whale.
Oh,
Yeah.
Stars and Garters.
So, the Crusader League are so fucking good.
Yeah.
I love Stars and Garters, Warriana, Fallen Arches, and Night Dick. They're perfect.
Night Dick is great.
Night Dick is so good. I love when they're introduced. Hank says, "Hey Pop, pretty much the Avengers are on our back porch."
This is season 6 is also the season where we get Brock and Warriana having their weird fucking thing, and like good for them.
Good for them.
I hope
I-
we get a season 8 and we can have an episode about her getting his gay ass pregnant.
I mean, they apparently were planning an episode where they were gonna get hitched, and then fucking Molotov was gonna show up and ruin the wedding. And I'm like, no, but I want that really badly.
I need to see that.
I want to see that. I think Brock should marry a large,
I'm
powerful
just so
woman.
enamored by how Brock and her immediately have this like sexual tension, but nothing comes of it because they're both too like dude bro, no homo at each other.
Mhm.
So funny.
It's
So funny. It's very funny to see 2 heterosexual characters no homo
No
each
homo
other.
each other.
It's so
Yeah.
fucking funny.
To me, what's so funny about it is in the Think Tank episode, where because it's right after he was god-gassed into just walking up to her and
Fuck me.
giving her a corpse.
Yeah.
And so, they have the awkward like, "Oh, you're still here,"
Yeah.
thing where he's like, "I wasn't trying to sneak out. I was just, you look busy," and, "Oh, you're still here. Go on, take that coffee to go." And then
It's great too because you get that impression. It's like, oh, it's the joke. She's not like that into him or whatever. She's busy. But the next time you see her, she calls him her man.
yeah, because like he crashes through the window and she catches him, and he's like, "Hey, she's like, I'm sorry about earlier. It's just I have my job and everything." And it's like, "Yeah, no, I get that. I'm dealing with this Think Tank guy." And she's like, "Oh, Think Tank? Oh no, he is not messing with my man."
Yeah.
It's really cute. Good for Brock.
Yeah, it's really funny. Just because, every chick that Brock is seen to like love and leave is like, you're cute, your standard like hot, skinny, dainty, cartoon chick, and it turns out like no, he's just really into how big and strong Warriana is. It owns. Good for
Because
him.
it's like one of the only times we see Brock actually like sexually interested in someone on screen is that like season 2 episode or whatever of Dr. Quimmen with that big like Minnesota bisexual like 50-year-old woman who's like super meaty, right?
He doesn't know what to make of her because he doesn't know how to process being attracted to her.
Yeah, and they were like, and there was that scene back in that episode where they were definitely meeting up to fuck, and the mood got ruined by the sudden intrusion of one of the boys.
Yeah,
and it's like it's so good.
I love that we get to a point where Brock isn't going to say it out loud because he's not the type of person to be horny on main per se.
of course.
But He does admit to Warriana's face, thanks to her truth lasso. You know, like I like him big. I like him big and tall. My butt.
Yeah, he's got that line like, "I don't even care about the boob thing. I think it's hot." Yeah, she's got the one breast because she's an Amazon.
Yeah, the bit where she's got him tied up in the lasso of truth. And he's like, but no butt stuff this time. And then she makes the lasso activate. He's like, I actually like it.
I love the scene after their one night stand where he comes back to the venture building and he sees Sheila and a bunch of like guild agents. And he goes, oh shit! And he tries to pull out his knife and he drops it because he's just so off his game.
He's so having trouble walking. Good for him.
It's so funny.
I know we've talked about the couple of times, like, oh man, the Molotov cocktease crashing the wedding thing, but it does make me envision the far-off future of Season 9, Season 10, where just completely without commenting on it, she is just always around at their house and it is uncommented on.
What I wanted to see I would love to see out of that episode is a repeat of the joke from Season 1 where she crashes the wedding and Warriana does the thing that Brock did to her in Season 1 where she just grabs Molotov by the arm and slams her into a toilet.
Maybe someday we'll get a Season 8.
Oh God, please. You know what's funny, Sarah? This is the second time we've been denied a wedding episode in a cartoon that got canceled too early.
You're right, because Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was supposed to have a really good wedding episode.
Yeah. I'm not familiar. I haven't watched that show. Who's going to get married in it?
One of the random mutant villains was going to get a villain wedding that Raph and Mikey crashed.
Oh, that's right, because it's the Lucha wedding
that
they were going to have.
Ghost Bear.
Yeah, Ghost Bear was going to have like a lucha wedding with like a cool luchador wife, and it of course, because they canceled that show way too soon, we didn't get it. But we did get some of the boards for it, and it's like, oh, this is going to be one of the best ones. Okay.
Did they ever? Because like it seems so obvious to me since they wear the eye covering things anyway. Did they ever, like, not for that show, but for TMNT broadly, did they ever do, like, a Teenage Mutant Lucha Turtles? Because I feel like there's legs there.
Saturn, those action figures definitely exist.
Okay, cool.
100% they exist, for sure.
Because, like, you know, one of them's got to be a Technico, and one of them's got to be a Rudo, and this, that, and the other, and like, just wrestling Shredder.
There are definitely wrestler variants of TMNT action figures.
Doing Hell in a Cell with Krang.
So, before we get too far into it, I do need to bring this up because it does drive me a little bit insane. So,
it may.
We didn't talk about it in the other two episodes, but I came across a thing last week where I was just looking at like interviews and information on when Adult Swim canceled Venture Brothers. That leads me to believe that Zaslav had nothing to do with Venture Brothers being canceled.
Right.
Seems like it was an inside job. So, Michael Aweline is the showrunner for Harvey Birdman, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, it gets canceled after, was it 3 seasons? In like 2007, 2008?
Yeah. And the stated thing was they canceled it basically to have more resources for Venture Brothers.
Yes, and allegedly, in Aweline's words, around 2012, Harvey Birdman was canceled in favor of the Venture Brothers. Mm-hmm. So the Venture Brothers gets renewed in 2018, and work starts on a season 8. Later in that year, or possibly in early 2019. The timeline's fuzzy. Mike Lazo steps down at the head of Adult Swim, and then Aweline becomes kind of like an interim head of Adult Swim. And then basically after a couple of months of him just kind of sitting in there, on the same day that Venture Brothers and Metalocalypse get the can, there is a spin-off for Harvey Birdman called Bird Girl getting greenlit.
Yeah, well, and it's important to note, too, Aweline isn't just at that point the new director of Adult Swim. He's already the director of Cartoon Network at that point, and he's just taking over operations for Adult Swim. And it's literally just like, Oh no, Venture Brothers got canceled because he's a petty bitch who doesn't have any taste.
Okay, fine.
Now this is all just extrapolation from the details. However,
Allegedly.
However, it seems like the Venture Brothers got canned more or less out of spite.
It's just an interesting coincidence.
It's just a funny coincidence.
Well, because
Don't
this is
worry
also
about
like, so it gets canned, right, in season 6, and I feel like that's probably. Does anyone have anything else they want to say specifically about season 6? Or
Season 6 has Red Death.
I do want to talk about Red Means Stop.
Yeah,
Or,
the finale of season 6. But I was just going to mention, because this is the thing for, like, when we go to season 7, that one is not on Adult Swim anymore.
Right, that's on HBO. Yeah.
And so that's why we bring that up now.
Yeah. Actually, I want to talk about 2 episodes: A Party for Tarzan and Red Means Death. Because A Party for Tarzan is really, really cool episode because they do the narration thing.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's a really good episode.
A really good like framing device, and it also gets one of my favorite scenes in the show, which is where Monarch explains what the EMA level means. Your equally matched aggression level, with the amazing flashback with Turnbuckle.
Yeah.
Where
Action Man just fucking domes this guy in front of Rusty. Yeah.
Right. The fucking amazing scene of Action Man saying, "Step the fuck away from the boy," walking between the crane as it's shoveling dirt.
Yeah.
Is so perfectly framed.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. He does the thing where he flips his pistol around to hold it like a club.
Just fucking pistol to death. It kicks ass.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so great to find out that the equally matched aggression level thing isn't like, oh yeah, no, it's just guild protocol. It's, no, we had to do this because Jonas Venture and his goons are psychopaths.
Yeah.
That's because everybody in Jonas Venture's fucking crew were maniacs. Yeah, except for the one guy who was a good guy, and we'll get into that at the beginning of season 7. But yeah, like, and that's the thing is that, like, A Party for Tarzan is just good because of, like, the framing device of, like, having multiple people tell the story, and you just get a lot of, like, really good voice acting and just good action shots and stuff like that. You get Christopher Lambert in this episode, but he doesn't say a word. And I was like really hoping they would get Christopher Lambert in for a single line, and they didn't. No.
That is positively, I am positive they wrote that and storyboarded it and everything with the hope that they would get him, and when they didn't, they're like, we're not changing that.
We're not
Just
changing
leave
it
in.
I 100% believe that he showed up, like they bumped into each other at a Comic-Con, and he was just like, oh, I'd love to be a part of it, and they tried to get a hold of him, and he was busy doing something else.
Yeah.
And they couldn't do the joke they did in season 2 with David Bowie, where like they could just do an impersonation. Like, no, it would, at this point they have the prestige to actually get Christopher Lambert if they can.
Yeah, you need to just get Christopher Lambert for like one line read, right? Oh, well.
I do like the scene, like with the horrible narration, like the narration of like Mrs. the Monarch like about to shoot the blue morpho, like being egged on by Wide Whale, right? Like I love, like, again, to bring up like Rusty moments, I love the moment where he actually looks up at the eclipse and he's like, oh, that really is beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's such a quiet, soft moment for like this man who has seen everything in the world and is not impressed by it anymore.
Right.
You know? Yeah, he almost gets shot, but then it's like, yeah, but no, he's fine. It's a bulletproof vest. The Blue Morpho was a hero. He gets shot all the time.
For one brief moment. It was like, did they finally do it? Are we finally... Because they just killed Jonas. I'm like, did they finally... Or JJ, not Jonas. Jonas is... Wow, we'll talk about Jonas.
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
I was just like, I mean, shit, it's called the Venture Brothers. Maybe we're finally going to be rid of Rusty Venture. God love him, but also, we have to kill him. I'm sorry.
It's one of those things where, like, I get why they did what they did ultimately, which is they don't, and it's part of a funny setup for, like, a weird, like, confluence of circumstance joke, and, like, the series ends on the same note it began on, right? So with the idea there will be more seasons that we can't see, yada, yada, yada. However, I would have, my opinion on the last 2 seasons of Venture Brothers would have skewed so wildly in the other direction of, no, this is the greatest show of all time, and season 6 and 7 are far and away the best one, if they had literally just killed Rusty right here. So, yeah, no, we're just killing off the main character of the show, and you have to deal with it for the remainder of the show's runtime.
Yeah.
Have fun with the jokes, dipshit. I'd be like, oh yeah, I love this.
Assholes. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm glad they didn't kill Rusty. I like him, but, also, part of me is like, they kill Rusty.
I don't think Venture Brothers has the prestige to pull off a Walking Dead, because not even The Walking Dead had the ability to pull off The Walking Dead.
That's
true.
no,
but, like, The Walking Dead's also bad for a lot of other reasons. But there are in fact, and I say this because it is one of my favorite weird subgenres of thing, and I'm not going to say, what these are, because it would be huge spoilers for some of them. One of my favorite things is when you have a story with someone who is obviously the main character, even though it's an ensemble cast and, like, the world doesn't revolve around them or anything, and you kill that character 2/3 of the way into the runtime.
I also love
It's
MASH.
so good. It's just imagine if the fucking ending of Cowboy Bebop happened on episode 16 and more shit happened after that.
right.
That would be crazy, yeah.
Like, you can't really improve Cowboy Bebop, but that would also be a really cool version of Cowboy Bebop.
It would also be like an insane way to make TV shows. I just think more TV shows should be made in an insane way.
Imagine if you had some, like, kids cartoon in the 80s. Where, like, you had, like, the leader of, like, of the good guys, and then they had a big movie where he fucking died! And some brand new character took over as the main character for the last season. Imagine if that happened!
Oh, you mean
Crazy if
Scrubs?
that happened?
You mean Scrubs, man?
Wouldn't that be crazy if that happened?
That'd
Anyway,
be ridiculous!
you should watch the Transformers movie. It's pretty good.
Oh, cry.
Okay. I'm not. It's not. But for a 35-year-old movie, but
Let's real quick talk about Red Means Stop so that we can move on to season 7.
Yes, please.
Because we get Red Death, who is the best new character in the series, bar none.
yeah, absolutely. Clancy Brown
Enhanced by
continues
Clancy Brown.
By America's own Clancy Brown, Lex Luthor,
And Mr. Krabs combined into one guy who is also bald and red.
I love the because the whole season we've had Gary not wanting to just brutally murder people. Like he clearly doesn't mind killing, like if it's in a fight, whatever, like it's fine. But like he doesn't want to just like murder all these guys. So we see the B plot of this episode is occasionally cutting to a weird Saw scenario.
And the entire time I'm watching this fucking episode, I'm like, what the fuck is the purpose of this B plot?
and it turns out this whole thing of like these two ex-villains who have been kidnapped here and who end up killing each other in like a Saw scenario. It turns out Gary's just been locking the villains that he's supposed to kill in this
bathroom.
In this basement, and then like giving them like big turkey dinners, and then just never checked to see if they're doing okay.
It's really funny. It's just like he bought a hamster and he's like, I feed it, but I don't play with it. Why is it insane? Right?
Yeah.
Like that's what it is. And it's the most insane B plot probably in the entire show. This show has had a lot of insane B plots, but like
it's
an out and out Saw reference, like a 1-for-1 Saw reference, right?
Yeah.
It is by all accounts going fucking nowhere for the entire episode. You're going like, what the fuck is going on? And it ends in like the funniest way, where it's like, oh, Gary's just insane, and now this guy to get got by the Red Death it owns.
Because the whole thing is that Red Death in this episode basically like went out to a thing really looking forward to killing some people and then wasn't able to kill anyone, but he really gets off on it, and so he's kind of in a bad mood about it. And he's like, hey,
Let me handle your problem, and I'll handle my problem. And just close the door.
We get that amazing scene of Red Death in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Where he's like, "Hey, honey, can you put my dinner in a Ziploc? I have an arching tonight."
And like the whole bit after, because like, you know, so the monarch goes to talk to Red Death at like the park that his daughter plays at.
Yeah.
He's like, after he gets done talking to him, Red Death walks off and he's just like the scariest guy who's ever lived. He gets back to the fucking Morpho cave and is like, "Oh, we can't fuck with that guy. He'll kill us."
The bit where they call like they fake kidnap his wife and daughter.
Right.
And then like, cause like they show him as guild leader to be like, "Your husband is in compromise. We need you to go to a safe location for the evening, you know, and we'll call you when it's safe." And like, they try to pull a take-in on him.
Yeah.
He gives the Liam Neeson speech and Monarch just goes, "Okay. Sorry."
And then immediately hangs up and is like, "Oh God, he's gonna kill us."
Just the monarch and Gary acting like a 50s housewife who saw a mouse.
Mm-hmm. And I love I love the fact that the Red Death isn't just like a consummate professional. He's also like extremely into the job itself, in a way that like I think only the monarch relates to, like out of all of the villains in the guild.
Yes.
Because the very first thing that he does is compliments the episode where Rusty has to go to his psychiatrist meeting, because he was just like, "Oh, the whole puppeteering thing, that was a masterpiece."
Yeah, it's really funny how he like compliments the monarch's like his style of arching. I guess.
And then he gives Monarch a warning, like to not let his hate envelop him. And he's like, he even suggests like, "I can set up. You can just shoot Rusty, and you can be done with this forever. And you can get out and you can live your life." And he like, that choice is on the table for you, because that's what I did, and it worked out great for me.
Yeah, except the part where he's still completely insane and wants to kill everything.
He's still completely insane. But it should be noted, the Red Death only arches once a year, so he's doing really good for himself.
He's keeping it under control. He arches once a year, but it's like he goes all out. And it's like, oh, what a great character. We love him. You guys, so good.
I do think it's funny how Red Death of all people has the Kim Kitsuragi thing of, it requires so much willpower to limit it to one mass murder a year. It would be easier if he just quit.
Yeah. Which is why we get that great bit in the next season where he talks about like, "Kate's on me to get that pension." So,
well, yeah, because he's also like, he's textually like in his 70s or 80s. Like that is explicit.
Yeah, he's like an old guy with like a new kid, and it's like, man,
a new kid and a significantly younger wife, which good for him.
Yeah, good for him. Good for him for actually doing the Liam Neeson thing.
Yeah,
good for her.
Good for her. Good for her. You know that dick game is crazy.
Yeah, no. we absolutely stand that queen. I don't even remember her name, but like,
it's Kate. Kate and his daughter is Lila.
That's right.
We definitely would, with Red Death, get the scene that we talked about last episode with JJ.
Oh yeah,
his head just comes up from behind the couch in a very telling location.
How would that? Like you think? Like there's absolutely a scene in season 8 where she's like, "How does that work with no lips?" And Kate's like, "Oh, you have no idea."
No idea. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I really don't, which is why I'm asking.
I'm sorry. Taking that one with me to the grave.
She's like, "Listen, I don't look down when it's happening, but it feels great."
It's great. Yeah. No, we love Red Death. He's our boy. He's literally a one season character. He's the best one.
He just his presence dominates the show from now on, right?
Yeah, that's the funniest bit, is because like again his one season is season 7. But we're also spending the most amount of time we've talked about any episode in season 6 talking about the one episode in season 6 he shows up in, because he's just that commanding of a presence.
I wanna call out the gag in this episode where Monarch and Red Death meet at the playground, and Red Death identifies Lila as the one in the rain boots.
Yeah, even though she looks exactly like him, but with like blonde pigtails.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
so
because
cute.
even when she can't hear him, he wouldn't dare say something about his daughter that would make her feel self-conscious about who he was.
Because he's a good dad and he thinks his daughter's pretty.
He's a remarkably considerate mass murderer psychopath.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because
We love him.
and she wears the rain boots because she's obsessed with Paddington.
That's right.
So cute.
Which means the notorious, because like you know how children are, right?
Yeah.
Notorious murderer Red Death has probably seen the movie Paddington 2 700 times.
Oh,
And is probably-
Red Death, the man who has a body count in the thousands, probably. The man who has witnessed, as we'll find out, the death of Jonas Venture, has the script of Paddington 2 memorized.
Oh yeah, and against his will.
Yeah,
right.
it was not intentional.
Oh, watch Paddington 2 again.
I think the truncation of season 6 and season 7 to be as relatively short and mashed together as we are, as we'll kind of get into in the beginning of season 7. The tragedy is we never get an episode where, Red Death has to hire a babysitter because him and the missus are going to have a nice day trip out. And the babysitter is literally just Scare Bear, but wearing Paddington Bear stuff over the
Yes.
He's making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for this child.
Wordlessly and terrifyingly. Yeah.
It's no, even funnier. It's they're bringing back the big villain, little villain scenario in season 7.
Yeah.
he's mentoring Scare Bear.
Oh god. Can we please now talk about the Morpho trilogy? I've
Yes.
been waiting for it.
Yes, we're going to jump to season 7 real quick. Oates, make your
So-
case for the supremacy of season 7.
So, season 7 is so good that they stole season 6's finale. The Morphic trilogy is supposed to be how season 6 ended, and they instead made it the premiere of season 7, which was season 7 fucking rules because it's so good.
Yeah.
Payoff, just fantastic. Just about every season has kind of a weird mythological question that gets answered rapid fire throughout season 7. It's just fantastic. Everything gets paid off in a way that's super satisfying.
And this is kind of why season 6 just kind of ends. It doesn't have a big booming finale like the rest of them, is because it bled into season 7.
Right.
The Morphic trilogy is probably the best thing to happen to Adventure Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it must be a weird production thing, because again, this is after the show got canceled on Adult Swim and then came out on HBO, but they're still doing stuff from season 6 effectively. I would really love to know what the production for that looked like. Did they just have those unfinished episodes laying around, or did they actually go okay, no, but we're gonna do the season, we got told to stop making episodes for season 6, and now we're gonna do the ones we didn't get to do with HBO. I wonder what that looked like.
I don't know.
There's something in the Morphic trilogy that I want to acknowledge. We didn't talk about it in season 5, but one of the payoffs that we get in this is in season 5 there's an episode where Monarch finds a photo of him and Rusty playing as kids.
Right.
And we don't follow up on that in season 5. We don't follow up on that in season 6. We finally follow up on that 7 years later?
Yeah.
5 years later, still.
The Venture Brothers.
The Venture Brothers, everyone.
5 years later, we finally figure out what the hell that meant.
It's interesting how there's a lot of they answer a lot of questions that we didn't even bother asking either. We all just kind of assume Vendetta died, except for the fact that he kind of gets up and kind of wanders around, and everyone's like, "Hey, he's MIA. Nobody knows what happened." And then we find out he's been just kind of wandering slowly back to Newark, of all places.
Yeah, because the party, the nightclub, is in Nevada, right?
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
the Venture compound is in Colorado.
Yeah, he walked across the country.
And
Very, very slowly.
very, very slowly. It took me 2 years, 1 month, and 45 days. Wouldn't that be 2 months and 15 days?
Yeah.
2 months and 15 days.
Yeah, we the craziest thing to happen in the series, Jonas Venture is alive.
I love the Morphic trilogy just because, like, sometimes I think, and I've complained about it a lot in this show, right? Sometimes I think certain tonal stuff, they don't sell it as well as they could, right?
Right.
The spookiness of these episodes, they sell immaculately with the spooky Sharky's machine music and, like, all the ghost shit and rats falling out of Helper's mouth and, like, all kinds of weird shit going on. I just think it's so good. Yeah. It's awesome. It's so spooky. I love anytime, like, my goofy cartoon show turns into a nightmare. I think it's, like, my, like, recurring theme of the Gorge is that, like, did the funny thing turn scary? Sarah's obsessed with it.
Oh, yeah.
Have I got the OKKO birthday episode for you?
Yay!
OKKO is basically a show that is like secretly what if every episode was a Simpsons Halloween episode.
It's so good.
That actually does sell me on watching OKKO more. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I'll send you one of the episodes after this. It'll be great.
As we've repeatedly talked about it before, there is an episode where everyone gets turned into furries that they never solve. They never resolved everyone getting turned into furries thing, and it becomes text in canon that is like repeatedly referenced across other episodes that every character in the show is actually just wearing a rubber suit of their character design and is a furry under it.
The apocalypse happened and they had to move on.
It's fine.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Hank and Dean are dead. They're clones.
They're clones, and the Morphic trilogy kicks ass. It's just so good. We get a lot of answers. We just, like, there's a lot of shit going on. It's spooky.
There's so many moving parts that it's super hard to thread and talk about all of the bits that came together for it.
We get Pete White at the hottest he's literally ever been.
Yeah.
It's an action survivor, yeah.
Yeah, just shirtless, having a screaming panic attack with an axe and hucking it at metal.
Yeah, you know,
Excuse me. No wonder Billy described him as handsome to his mom.
That's right.
And no wonder those two are married.
Yeah,
I do love that the running gag that those two have gotten, like, they haven't gotten married, but they lied about it to Billy's mom because she sent them wedding registry stuff, and they were too embarrassed to say no.
Yeah.
Can we get those two voices to dub translations for any interview with Nasu and Takeuchi?
Yes! Same two guys!
You know what my other favorite part about Pete White and Billy Quizboy is? So they look a lot like Jackson and Hammer, right?
Oh, they are their self-inserts, yeah.
Except that they're voicing the opposite person.
Yeah.
I didn't know that! That's right!
It's such a great little zigzag.
I think it's McCulloch is the one who looks like Quizboy and Hammer is the one who looks like Pete White, and they have the opposite voices.
That's great. I love that. Okay. But no, the Morphic trilogy is also where we it's been kind of implied over the course of 6 seasons and a movie / special. But, like, this is where it becomes not just subtext, but text, that the actual villain of the Venture Brothers is Jonas Venture.
Jonas Venture, yes.
Yeah.
It was real quick, just because it's a reference that will never come up in later discussions of this show. It is the thing where I was watching this really recently in the middle of us, Sarah and I, preparing to record more content for Masks over on Big Gay Nerds, and realizing, based on when I watched this originally, and, like, I didn't see, like, this, like, you know, this season, obviously, because it wasn't out yet, but I had seen, like, the other stuff with Jonas Venture, and realizing that I created this weird quantum loop where Jonas Venture is part of the DNA of, like, player character background story in that superhero thing, and I just literally didn't even know I was doing it until right now.
Yeah, because, like, the whole show has basically said, like, yes, Jonas Venture is a huge piece of shit, and, like, you should not aspire to be like him, and part of, like, Rusty's agonies is that he's trying to be like his father, but his father sucked, right?
Right.
My father was a shitty dad is a line that comes up in this season. And you're like, okay, so Jonas sucked, and he was just kind of like an amoral douchebag who just, like, did psychotic shit with his fucked up friends, right?
Right.
But then, like, you get to the Morphic trilogy, you're like, oh, he's just a villain.
Yeah.
He's literally just a villain.
He is a legitimate sociopath who is willing to do whatever it takes to and use whoever is available to accomplish his goals.
It should be noted, it's in the Morphic trilogy that we finally get to see the rest of Team Venture kind of implicitly, like, give up on him.
Yeah.
They also realize in that moment, they're like, oh, Jonas is a monster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Despite all the horrible things they did to Rusty, like, we didn't talk about it, but last season there's the bit where we see the flashback where Action Man fakes a grenade pull.
Yeah.
And Rusty jumps on it and the fucking bang flag goes through his kidney.
Which is why in episode 1 at the very, very beginning, he had 2 sutures for missing kidneys.
Yeah.
He only has one kidney.
Yes, because they tried to get the other one and realized that it was empty, so they had to go to the other side to take the other one.
And also the thing where he mentions offhand in some episode or another where he'd get woken up most nights because Action Man would come into his room and point an empty gun at his head and pull the trigger so he could hear the click ring through his skull.
Mm-hmm. And say, "Not today, Rusty."
Yeah.
Because of other things that we know about Rusty, which is kind of a fan theory now, I think, and confirmed later, I forget. There was some nights where it probably was the day Rusty.
Yeah.
Totally. But no, this trilogy is, we finally get to see the Team Venture actually have a limit to their sociopathy.
Mm-hmm.
My theory, by the way, I have several. I've written down a lot about this specific chronology because it's fascinating to break down how much of a monster Jonas is for this.
Oh yeah.
So, we've talked about it before, like off camera. I don't necessarily subscribe to the theory that Jonas had this planned.
Right.
I think some guild member got lucky.
No. I don't agree with that. I don't think he had it planned. I think he did it, but it was convenience.
I don't think he was involved with it at all. I think some guild member got lucky. But based on how the timeline works, something very interesting comes up. So here's the course of events of the Blue Morpho's death, right?
Okay.
Plane crash happens, right? They're both dead, and Malcolm survives and is raised by butterflies for a couple months before, as he says, he walks and finds a highway, gets a ride back to New York, and claims his inheritance, right?
Yeah.
In those months, at some point, Jonas had to go and retrieve the Blue Morpho's body. Which means he either didn't bother to check or didn't bother to recover Malcolm.
Yeah.
I'm going to make the argument, Blue Morpho's face on Vendetta is in pretty good shape.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't out there long.
No, but I mean, like, Malcolm was there.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Which means
I think he went to collect him immediately and just didn't even bother to look.
Yeah, so, like, he didn't bother to question why Malcolm's body wasn't in the crash, or either he saw Malcolm was alive and just left anyway.
You're like, oh, that kid's getting raised by butterflies. That's funny.
But here's something that's weird. We saw the photo of Rusty and Malcolm playing as kids, right?
Right.
And in that photo is Jonas and Blue Morpho and his wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Venturion dies, when Kano kills a great man and takes his vow of silence, the reason Venturion freaked out is because he saw Malcolm crying. Which means, at some point after leaving Malcolm in the woods, Jonas found him again after his inheritance was claimed, and brought him back to the Venture compound where his dead robot father could babysit him.
No, that was a hallucination.
No,
that was a hallucination.
No, it wasn't. Because what happened in the flashback was Venturian sees Malcolm crying, and his memory gets tricked into thinking it's Malcolm crying in the plane. No, let me explain. He thinks Malcolm is crying in the plane crash. He's choking Rusty because he thinks he's throttling the controls of the plane.
Right, but in the interaction with Rusty, I don't.
No, Malcolm is there. I'm almost positive Malcolm is there.
No, Ben, the obvious answer is here. This is foreshadowing for the reveal that those two are basically identically genetical. He hallucinates Malcolm there because Rusty looks exactly like him.
I'm double checking now.
I'm going to look this up right now. Oh, here it is. Here's the clip right here that I'm looking for.
The tensest historical debate happening on the Gorge podcast right now.
Like we're waiting for confirmation to see who won the election.
You're right. No, you're right. You're all right. Yep.
Sorry.
Rusty was by himself.
Rusty was by himself, and Rusty started crying, and that made him think it was Malcolm crying.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
He goes to grab.
You're right. No, I misremembered the exact. Venturion has a flashback of Rusty playing and Malcolm crying, which triggers a deeper flashback of Malcolm crying during the plane crash.
That's right.
Okay.
You know what, Ben? I'll be perfectly honest. It is very heartening to me to know that even your absurdly clean memory of all the events of Venture Brothers we watched in the last month and change does occasionally have a little leak in it. It makes me feel a lot less bad.
Makes me feel more human.
I basically only remember 15% of what we watched last month.
Okay. Either
way, Jonas Venture is a psychopath.
Oh yeah,
that's correct.
Absolutely. I do think, continuing on last episode's thing, there is something super insidious about the slow reveal of Jonas being just a horrible piece of shit that I do think, among other things, he's the guy who cashed in on the bounty for the death of the Blue Morpho.
Yeah, I do think that. I agree with Saturn. I don't think it was just some random guild guy who got lucky. We'll never know, of course. This is just a thing we'll just debate forever.
I think
I absolutely think that Jonas had something to do with the Blue Morpho's death, and he just cashed it in.
Because I think the thing here is, I recall the thing is the obvious evidence for this is almost immediately after this is when they make Gargantua 1.
Right. And the Blue Morpho had the biggest bounty on his head that the
Okay, so I'll give you that one that he might have Jonas might have cashed in on the bounty, but I really don't think he was responsible for the plane crash, because why would he revive him afterward?
Because Ben, and it's because this is the Jonas. Obviously, he wants to kill him because A, he's kind of a complication, and B, it's a fat bounty. But just because he kills him doesn't mean that he's not still potentially useful.
Exactly.
Why? Jonas Venture doesn't need to cash him out. He can find a way to bring him back to life so he can have his friend and his little hitman and potential nanny, while also still getting the benefits of fucking throwing him under the bus and cashing in on this huge bounty.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I suddenly kind of had a realization. We never actually learned why the Sovereign made a deal with the investors, because he met them while he was already a shapeshifter, so it obviously can't be for that.
Mm-hmm.
What if he's responsible for the what if he actually did orchestrate the movie night massacre by having the investors pull the plug?
Who knows?
I don't know about that one. I think the Sovereign making a snap decision to blame Sphinx was a snap decision.
Yeah,
because we see him cursing out Red Death's gang.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So that was a complication he didn't need. So he foisted the blame on someone else for that one.
Right.
Well, he also didn't know that they were up on board there. He could have been cursing them out so that he could, have a scapegoat for like, oh yeah, obviously like this wasn't planned. We'll figure something out.
I forget. I think the scene does happen in season 7, so it's
Yeah.
fair game. But it is part of why I'm like, yeah, no, I would totally believe the Sovereign having some prior connection to Jonas, just because of the whole thing of I made sweet yet completely accidental love to the blue morpho.
Mm-hmm.
Also part of the Morpho. Well,
Because it would establish a thing that would make sense for why that thing would work is the idea that at a certain point, the shapeshifter who is the Sovereign was at that point busy being the blue morpho in some capacity.
mhm.
All right, here's a theory then. What if Jonas thought he was killing the shapeshifter?
I could believe it.
I can believe that.
Because that would
Interesting
be an even bigger thorn in his side to cash out than his guy he's blackmailing.
Yeah.
Is the only other guy who actually knows what it is he's doing.
Right.
Yeah, I that might have been it. Is that he thought that he was killing, because the theory being that the shapeshifter is also occasionally poses as the blue morpho, or whoever Jonas needs him to be.
Mm-hmm.
He might have thought, well, while the shapeshifter is posing as the blue morpho, I'll just kill him off and close that little loop.
Yeah.
And then, oops, it was actually the real blue morpho. Oh well, Venturian time.
I believe
Yeah.
this completely 100% immediately because I can envision the season 1 Venture Brothers episode, but starring Jonas instead, where he has this brilliant idea and then he pulls a trigger on it and then goes to check. He's like, oh fuck, I killed the real one.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
well, lemons and lemonade.
Yeah, and
Well,
then
he's
up
worth a
bounty
clean
anyways.
$60 million last I checked.
Didn't they say that nobody knows who cashed in the blue morpho bounty?
Yeah.
Yeah, Phantom Limb says that the bounty got cashed in the year of his death. However, the problem with that is that plane accident happened while it was just Malcolm and his family.
Mm-hmm.
None of the Guild of Calamitous Intent ever learned his identity. So how
Yeah.
did they know how did they know to cash that in?
Yeah, the fact that nobody knows, like nobody in the guild knows who cashed out the blue morpho bounty makes me 100% certain that it was Jonas, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
And then
Because
also,
otherwise it would be some fucking, masked goober who would be,
I-
screaming it from the rooftops, right?
because that would also be a great thing where you have Jonas and the Sovereign just like, well, yes, I did try to blow you up in that plane thinking it was you, and it wasn't. But the blue morpho's dead, so can I get that cool $60 million?
Yeah, it's I solved both our problems, didn't I?
Yeah, it's a brilliant little wrinkle that's like if that theory really is there, it just adds so much to. Oh God, Jonas really is a horrible
Oh, yeah.
person.
No matter what, Jonas is a monster.
We even get the thing of, as we learn later, it's not quite true, but the implication that Jonas just fucked the blue morpho's wife.
Yeah.
My
It's
science
not
is
true.
quite potent.
I think it is also believable that he did, and he went, oh no, actually, the problem is in fact with you. I'm going to need to foist this abandoned clone onto you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's your husband or not. There's nothing happening in there, lady.
And there's just also like so many good little bits like talking about movie night in the Morpho trilogy about like the Pyramid Wars and Brock learning that he literally waged war with Sphinx for no reason.
Yeah, just because
Just
somebody
like Metal Gear.
Small guy.
Mhm.
And we still don't know for sure who actually pulled the switch.
I was gonna literally ask. They don't ever say who actually did it.
No, it could have been Vendetta, but he claims that he would remember doing that.
Yeah, he swears he didn't. So the
Yeah.
question, and Red Death and Company didn't do it
They were-
either.
Yeah, they weren't there.
And the
Yeah.
thing is, I 100% believe Vendetta didn't do it.
Mhm.
Because when we get to the thing of Vendetta jacking into the problem to have a brain conversation with Jonas, he does try to have a good faith conversation with Jonas.
Yes.
Mhm. There's another wrinkle too. So those two together were in that room, so it makes you think like, oh, they could have pulled the plug right then and there in the control room, except because Jonas has the theme song from Sharky's Machine running his head, means that he was inside of the theater watching.
Yeah. Because the theater is what killed it. Bud Manstrong survived because he was the only one who wasn't watching the movie.
Right. Everybody. The thing is that whoever opened the airlock in the theater, it's that everybody was in the theater, and that includes Jonas Venture.
Can I propose a theory that would mean absolutely nothing and has absolutely no relevance? What if it was just Bud Manstrong?
I was going to say, like, it could have just been Bud who was like, oops.
What if he was mad because they had enough seats for everyone on Gargantua 1 -1, and he was the one who was left out of getting to watch Sharky's Machine?
Yeah.
Little newsboy just going like, I'll show them.
Could have, or it could have just been as simple as no one is watching this 10-year-old kid who sees a big panel of buttons and levers.
Yeah, and he just presses buttons and gets goofing off, right? Like,
yeah.
Mother, I may have vented the entirety of Gargantua 1.
But no, I do want to shout out the group that Red Death is working with.
Oh yeah,
they look amazing. Oh my god,
Freddie Mercury.
Yeah,
Red Death also looks amazing in that group. He looks exactly the same, except he has like a cool mohawk and like a punk rocker outfit, like he's in Cyberpunk.
It's what are the names? There's
it was in there.
Red Death, Mr. Fahrenheit, Vendetta, Stab Girl.
Stab Girl's great. Hate that.
Laugh Riot.
Laugh Riot, yeah, Laugh Riot was what I'm thinking of. The clown with the riot shield.
Oh yeah.
Just great, all around, just great fucking designs.
And one of which is just Freddie Mercury.
Yeah. Mr. Fahrenheit.
Again, Guild of Calamitous Intent is just filled with nothing but Rockstar.
Yeah. I have to make an amendment to our position that Venture Brothers, Team Fortress 2, and Metal Gear Solid all take place in the same universe. Cromartie High also takes place in that same universe.
Yes.
It's temporally before. It's before Mr. Fahrenheit was killed at Gargantua 1, but also CD players still existed. Don't worry about it.
That's correct.
Nakazawa is somewhere around.
I also want to call it real quick the joke of when Vendetta goes back to his house, he realizes the main Morpho suit is gone because Malcolm has it, but the anaphylactic suit is still there because he fought Killer Wasp and it's allergic to bees.
I really like that because like it's a really good. They've set that joke up because like the entire time that like the Monarch and Gary have been hanging out in the fucking Morpho cave, there have always been 3 pods there.
Yeah.
And we just never see what's in the 3rd pod.
But no, yeah, so what's in the 3rd pod? Oh, it's a backup suit for when he got stung by wasps.
It's amazing. It's so funny.
I forget in the season 4, season 5 episode when the Monarch gets the horrible stuff on his face. What was that from?
A fancy salad. He's allergic to a certain type of lettuce. It wasn't bees.
Okay, because I'm like, was it like a face cream he put on that uses beeswax or something? Because that'd be really funny.
He's allergic to like arugula or something.
He was eating a really fancy seafood salad, so presumably he has some kind of shellfish allergy.
I see.
Because it was the French henchman that Gary hired.
Oh my god, that's right.
Also we didn't mention him in season 6, but Vincenzo is a great new addition to the cast as well.
Yes.
Just this guy that Rusty knows that provides all the speed suits.
He's Sicilian.
Is he one of the characters in season 6 who's voiced by Orpheus?
I
Yeah.
believe so.
I know the Italian restaurant guy is.
I'm
I
pretty
think
sure
Vincenzo might also be.
Yeah.
Um,
Again, really funny that it's like, oh, Rusty could just be a villain because, like, the guy who makes his fancy speed suits, his other gig is just making villain suits.
yeah, that's actually a reference to a relatively obscure Marvel character
Really?
who showed up in the mid 2000s. He's a New York tailor who just repairs costumes for good guys and bad guys alike.
That's so
He
funny.
doesn't like his little tailor shop is like a neutral ground, and like just when you get your costume damaged in battle, just pop over to him and he'll fix it up for you.
Adams.
I love when they do diegetic costume shit, because like we have to do some of that in Masks occasionally. It's a lot of fun. But it does also remind me of my favorite setting detail for My Hero Academia, which is like, okay, so everyone has superpowers and everyone gets superpower costumes, whatever. But part of that is like, okay, literally your superpower costume is provided to you by a government agency whose job it is to make superhero costumes. And the specific repetition of certain design elements across certain characters' costumes is because literally the designers working there have their own little signatures that they put into the outfits they design. So that you can see two characters who have like the same pattern of 3 dots on like a thigh or something and go, oh, the same person designed both their costumes.
I love that shit.
It's good. I love details like that.
I love making weird genre stuff diegetic.
What else do I have to say about the Morphic trilogy? We get one of my favorite callbacks ever, which is the Action Man finally having a stroke.
Oh yeah, that's right. He finally has his stroke. You put it off for too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, he in the background details they mentioned for this that it probably does not line up temporally with the Orpheus prediction of his stroke, but they're like, yeah, well, the thing is, when an evil magic man tells you exactly when a stroke is going to kill you, you might start taking, like, some aspirin.
Yeah.
You start your aspirin regimen. You start working out a little bit more often. You eat less salt.
That's why he was able to date Roses, because he shaped up.
That's right.
Cleaned up
That's
his
right.
act.
Cleaned up.
Yeah.
It all worked out for him.
The numerous callbacks to careers in science, considering this episode is named Arrears in Science.
Right.
But the fact that the problem light was blinking originally because the implication was that Rusty's plastic cowboy toy had melted into the wiring, right? Turns out that's not quite accurate.
It's
but
very funny that
the
Rusty like vividly hallucinates a vision of his father talking to him in the problem room.
Well, here's the thing about
and also real quick, the toy cowboy was responsible for Jonas's body shattering because they were trying to get his frozen body into the problem, and they slipped on the toy.
Here's the thing about that too, and this is the funnier extra detail about that, is that in that original episode, like, obviously the thing with the problem is actually Jonas is like, it's so far in the future, it's probably that probably wasn't intended from the beginning, is I would guess. Like, that's such a call. But the thing is, in that episode, Rusty removing the melted cowboy does make the problem light go off, which might make the even funnier detail. The reason why he wasn't conscious the entire time is because the wiring in his satellite was bad, and Rusty's accident is the only thing that briefly made a functioning circuit, and the instant he removed the error, the thing stopped working again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the bit where he acknowledged, like, the blinking was him trying to communicate in Morse code. And he says that they must not teach the cadets Morse code anymore. He doesn't recognize Hank and Dean because why would he?
Right.
It's funny because, like, you would think he would instantly clock that Dean is, like, a relative of his because he looks so much like a young Rusty.
I think it is in character for Jonas's extremely self-concerned image that it is impossible for him to consider a world in which his son fucked.
Right. Like, he cannot think. And I mean, he's right.
Yeah.
There's no way that boy ever got any. He's a square.
Yeah.
No, just all around, like, this is like one of the best trilogies. Like, I remember watching this in real time, and afterward just being stunned that we got all this payoff after almost 2 decades.
Right.
Just getting actual answers to questions. Who are these people and how are they related? Like, what actually happened to Jonas Venture? Now we know. Holy shit.
Yeah, because up until the season 6 finale where they talked about the movie Night Massacre, we didn't know that Venture died in that same massacre.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, Venture Brothers is a show that trades in the idea of, like, denying you answers, right? Like, that's its whole fucking thing. We still don't know who opened the airlock for the movie Night Massacre. So, like, this is a show that, like, kind of lives and dies by, like, giving you a tease of new information and then, like, not, and, like, kind of answering it, but not really answering it. And so, like, these 3 episodes are just like, no, we got canceled.
Yeah, we're not
fucking episode. Here's every answer you've ever fucking wanted, mostly.
Yeah.
Now that that's done, let's move on to the HBO content, say Public and Hammer.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about these 3 episodes, but because they're just flawless. They're immaculate storytelling.
They're so good.
But we got to move on. We got to talk about other stuff that happens in the season.
That's right. I do want to try and actually talk about the movie in this episode.
Yes.
So we should move on.
Yeah, this is a kind of, I guess, like, stone cold jump into, like, the next sort of plot arc that happens in the season leading up to the movie. Is we have this whole bit, and I forget if I'm skipping anything here, but I believe it's basically this abrupt, is we have this whole arc about Rusty Venture inventing teleportation.
Yes, that is the overlying subplot of the rest of the season.
Yeah, and so here's the thing, and this is just, like, there's a lot of, like, little details I've forgotten or whatever, but there's something I just genuinely missed in our watch, and I was like, you know what, I'll just ask about it on the show. So, like, we have this whole plot where, like, he invents teleportation, and the OSI and Illuminati get involved, so look, bud, you can't invent teleportation because it's gonna fuck the whole world up. Just, like, give us your shit and we'll make your life really easy and don't try to invent any more teleporters. And there's this very lavish HBO airing sequence that you can only do on HBO where he gets taken to a weird masked party and it's just a bacchanalia.
It's an Eyes Wide Shut.
It's Eyes Wide Shut, yeah.
Yeah. It's just a bacchanalia of sucking and fucking with
That's
like
correct.
Eyes Wide. And all sorts of things that you could not even have censored on Adult Swim or cable TV, yada yada yada. Does that plot line ever actually resolve? Because I remember them going.
It's a VR.
In the stinger they show that he's just been attached to a VR headset.
Because I was sitting there like, I remember the scene where like, okay, it's you either fuck or you get fucked or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where's this going? And then I literally just don't even remember that, like, seeing the ending of that bit. And I was like, did they just drop that entire plot?
The answer is that it's revealed that they're just in an OSI room and they just put a VR headset on Rusty and put a auto blow on his junk.
Yeah, and like Rusty agrees to not pursue the teleportation thing because, like, you know, he decided to do the fucking instead.
As Hunter says, get a nerd laid and he thinks he's king of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Unless this was also part of the VR and I just forgot, don't Monarch and 21 end up stealing the 2 teleporter pads?
Yes, because there's the heist with Copycat. That Sheila is like, go do this thing, go do your mingling with your other villains, and he gets roped into the heist.
Who's the specific guy that Copycat is supposed to be like a reference to?
Dean Martin.
Okay, I was trying to remember who the name was because I kept seeing him like, I know that's not Mink DeVille, but I keep thinking of Mink DeVille.
By the way, you know, we're putting my wife and I are putting up the Christmas decorations, and we're listening to Christmas music while we're doing it. And Dean Martin music comes on, and I'm sitting there listening to it, and I'm like, God damn, that impersonation in Venture Brothers was spot on.
So like I'm the weird person here who likes old cinema a lot. So like while we were watching it, I kept being completely flabbergasted because it genuinely did sound like him.
It just sounds exactly like Dean Martin.
It's a great voice. That actor was also the voice actor for Cotton Hill, Hank's dad.
And that's General Tracer as well.
That dude needs... I need to see that dude in, like, some more video games or something, because that dude's range is really incredible.
It's phenomenal.
Copycat sounded genuinely like... If they added, like, a little bit of, like tinniness to the recording, it would have sounded like... I would have genuinely been like... They pulled canned lines from Ocean's 11 out.
Yeah.
They should genuinely get that guy in a Fallout game.
Oh, yeah.
Well, here's the problem. We already have a Dean Domino in it, so
you just have a guy who's like the king from New Vegas, but his thing is impersonating Dean Domino.
Yeah.
I want to talk about one of my favorite episodes, which is the Inamorata Consequence, which is
the Treaty of Tolerance episode.
The Treaty of Tolerance episode. Has so many good bits in it, and we finally get to see what I think is kind of the peak of Rusty's character, which is him saying, I finally get it. You're all children.
You're all children. It's like the best scene that Rusty ever gets.
Yeah. He's finally stepping up and he's saying, all right, none of you get to play anymore. You're doing work. You have to sit down and focus and do your goddamn homework. No more video games, no more squirt gun fights, no more fighting in the pool. You're going to sit down, you're going to write your essay, and you're going to go home.
The bit where he says, no wonder my dad put you in the pool and made you slug it out that way. You're all children.
Well, because also, their ritual combat was them putting fucking flippers on their hands and wearing an inner tube or whatever.
That's kind of what I said last week about how, the difference between Jonas and Rusty is that Jonas will give the crying kid a BB gun and tell him to go take his revenge, and Rusty will say, playtime is over, everyone go home, you made one of them cry. That's the difference, is that...
Well, it's also that funny difference is that, it's not just that, because, Rusty is, the one who's you ruined it, you made the kid cry, everybody go home, whatever. It's also, the thing that we get now that we've seen Jonas and, the full degree of whatever kind of evil that lurked in that guy's mind, of just, he sees these extremely powerful, easily manipulated, stupid as fuck actors and goes, yeah, I'm going to manipulate them in a way that is exclusively for my own edification, not even to gain. I'm going to humiliate them because it's funny to me. And they're not going to get this joke while I'm still alive.
Yeah, no one in that entire group realized they were being made fun of.
Oh yeah.
It's so great because it's like no, okay, I get why it is Jonas is the person no one can shut the fuck up about. And it is literally just because, much like Rusty, he just happens to be the most insightful person in a room full of completely dyed-in-the-wool morons on occasion.
There's just so many good moments of Rusty being like, I'm in charge now. We're doing this. All of you need to focus. He's yelling at people that could easily kick his ass too. And that's the best. He's scolding Brock Sampson.
I expected better from you.
Yeah.
That's the most amazing part.
Just because you got a beard now doesn't mean I don't still have a say in this relationship.
But no, when he's calling all them children, Brock looks really ashamed.
Yeah.
And that's just a great little moment of Rusty finally getting his triumph. This is the peak of his character. This is him at the height of his maturity.
It's literally the only time he's ever gotten in his entire life an unambiguous W.
Yeah.
Which is very funny because again, and this is my own personal damage and my own personal lens, but it's the Gorge, so I'm going to talk about it. This is also the most that Rusty has ever obviously been public and or Hammer were people who thought the rally to restore sanity was a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that they did. I don't know them that well. But it is the most, like, Jon Stewart ass that Rusty Venture has literally ever been. I'm like, man, great. I'm glad that's that character's moral peak. Is being Jon Stewart.
We get the whole thing with Helper 2 as well.
Yeah.
I love Helper
They
2.
couldn't get J.K. Simmons back for an episode.
Yeah, so Ben is just on vacation.
Yeah.
I love this episode. Hey, not just because of the reveal, but also I really just like Helper 2. He's like in a different version of the show. I would love to see him around more, but obviously he's coming in so late and he kind of has his one bit. But I love the version of Helper who's just like C-3PO with social anxiety, and also he likes watching trash shows on Netflix.
Yeah.
Watching Skins. About half-naked teenagers on drugs.
Yeah,
Is that good? Not really.
Would you like some sweatpants warmed up in the dryer?
Why? Well, the elevator's slightly above body temperature, and as a warm-blooded mammal, it's a real treat. And we get to the end of that episode, and Rusty just looks at Dean like, "Are you wearing sweatpants?"
We also get the really cool scene in the tent with the OSI and the guild, like, just chatting.
Just hanging out. They're just hanging out.
Like, they all get these cool little one-on-one scenes with them. Like Brock and Phantom Limb, like, bemoaning the fact that at one point James Bond had a toy BB gun.
Mm-hmm.
And the absolutely adorable scene, I think, of Sheila and Dean talking about college.
Oh yeah, and
I think it's
Sheila basically being their aunt. Which
it's super cute because she calls Dean sweetie.
Oh yeah,
and it's so adorable.
Yeah, she's doing aunt shit because she is
their aunt, basically.
She's literally their aunt. Yeah.
There was an interesting theory going around when the season came out, and there wasn't really a whole lot to it, but it was when the episodes were coming out, there was a theory that Sheila was pregnant in this.
Oh yeah,
because she is a bit more emotional and like more like caring than she's been.
Mm-hmm.
And she also has that big breakdown, like where she like starts crying when she's confronting her arch.
Oh yeah, that's right.
People kind of were like, are they hinting at like, is that the big season thing? Is that she's actually pregnant?
Oh, that'd be really funny. I wish we could get a season 8.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Not to like frame this in a way that seems especially critical of the show, because I think like it is just the way of things sometimes. You have something where it's principally written and done by like two dudes who mostly write dudes.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's very funny that there is a contingent of the Venture Brothers readership that goes, you know, the one woman character on the show is being more emotional than usual. Is she pregnant? Question mark. Oh my guys.
It wasn't like a solid theory or anything like that. It was just like one of those like, they could be going in that direction.
Well, that's the thing. It's like less about it being solid theory and more like it's credible that we believe that this might be something they're doing. Like, oh man,
it is a shame that Venture Brothers does not have more female characters that aren't voiced by men.
Yeah, they really.
Which again is one of those things that again we talked about. Like, I don't hear it anymore, so I keep forgetting that she is voiced by a man.
Yeah, it's just like it's like the Bob's Burgers things. You
Yeah,
know, like, right? Where it's just like that when you're making an Adult Swim cartoon or something in that similar production bracket, and you have like 4 guys who are doing all the voices, that just ends up being what happens.
Yeah,
because they don't want to go. Well, no, you don't want to go get like in because like I guess in Venture Brothers' case, like you have Hammer and you have Public, and then you have Patrick Warburton, Sinter Nicholas, and
Urbaniak.
And like that's kind of it.
Yeah, you just
there's like other guys who show up sometimes, but like not often.
You have those 4 people in your main cast, and then everyone else in your main cast is just McCulloch and Hammer again. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you probably should have, but like, also, it's an Adult Swim cartoon. It started in 2004. I don't expect that much.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's just a funny thing.
Yeah. What else happens in this season? We get we talked about the heist episode, which has we round out the DCAU trio finally of just getting Mark Hamill to play a character.
Oh,
Yeah, he plays
that's
it. He
right.
plays the Joker.
Yeah, he plays shape-shifting Joker.
He plays two characters in the same episode too, because there's an OSI character who's very aggressively just Mark Hamill's normal acting voice.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh my god, that's great.
They're clearly like, oh shit, we got to get some voices. Hey, Mark, you're still in the booth right now. Can you just read these?
Can you read these lines too?
I know I said it in a prior episode. They really should have just gotten the guy who did Space Ghost for Coast to Coast to just come in and do a character at some point.
No.
I think at this point he can't. I think he has some mental issues.
Oh yeah, I guess he is
dementia or something.
Yeah, and then obviously Rip to a Real One. Brack is no longer with us either.
Yeah, Brack and Moltar.
Oh, is Moltar also dead?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Moltar and Brack had the same voice, had the same actor.
Oh, that was that was the same. Damn, that's a deep work.
Yeah.
I mean, has
real
range. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him.
I want to watch Chips.
You know what we should do? Now we're done with the Venture Brothers. We should just watch all of Space Ghost.
I would be down for watching. Are you kidding me?
The thing is, that show's extremely funny all the time.
It is.
I remember more of that show than I did Venture Brothers before rewatching Venture Brothers, even though I watched that show before I watched Venture Brothers.
Yeah.
You're bringing me down, man.
What else do I want to talk about in this?
Terminus Mandate, because we get the best Red Death scene.
Oh, the one where everyone gets their final arch.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
Red Death has the speech.
Before we do have to talk about the Red Dragoon and Mantle thinking that they really could take on Al from Tim the Toolman Taylor.
I can't remember what hero they're talking about, but Red Mantle has that great bit where he talks about one of his former arches where he's like, I got punched in the tummy and immediately vomited my lunch all over his boots. He stuffed a Reuben sandwich all over his shoes.
And it's so funny, they spend like the entire episode just laying in a hotel bed watching episodes of Downton Abbey before they eventually go like, alright, let's rip the Band-Aid off, and then they open the envelope and it's just informing them that they have in fact outlived all of their arches and that they don't have anyone they need to go.
And they're like, what?
And then Phantom Limb and Heathers have a literal dick measuring contest.
They meet on a bridge in the snow and get rulers out and then have a mild exchange about where they're starting the measurement from. Which we get the great follow-up to in, like, I think the end of the season or, like, at the beginning, or I think it's the end of the season, where it's like, yeah, by the way, I had, like, an entire inch on him.
Yeah. Wide Whale's final arch is, it turns out his final arch is his henchman's poker buddy, so he's just like, rough him up and then buy him dinner.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't mention it because, like, we've been kind of going through these at a clip, and so obviously we have to leave some stuff. I do think it's very funny that the resolution, like, part of the resolution for the whole Blue Morpho trilogy is, like, they have they have a fucking Monarch in the Blue Morpho costume. They have him tied up and whatever, and they're gonna fucking kill him. And then they reveal that actually Wide Whale's brother, Dr. Jung, actually survived getting his head blown up with a rocket launcher because he's got starfish DNA in him. And then we have that whole scene where it's like he meets his niece and he's like, what do you mean I have an uncle? I thought he was dead.
Yeah. So he's like, I didn't know you were alive. You would know if you read Mom's emails.
See, it's a shame that they do what they do with Serena at the end of season 7 because she's a really funny character.
She's great. She's a better Triana than Triana was.
Yeah.
Again,
She could have filled that role like much better.
I was gonna say, I think one of my favorite part about her is that she ad libs most of her lines, which is why you get the thing where she was just like, "If I ruled the world, I would outlaw Rocco, just Rocco."
Well, I do think if they ever, because I don't think we're getting a season 8 of Venture Brothers.
No.
But if ever someday down the line we got Venture Brothers: The Next Generation,
Right.
I think she would make a great cast replacement for Dr. Mrs. the Monarch.
I can see that, yeah.
I want her to be a girl villain,
Mhm.
and for her and Hank to still have something weird going on.
Yeah. I think eventually, I think her and Hank could get over it. I think her and Hank could go back to being a thing.
Her and Hank in the future revival would be the equivalent of, like, if Brock had a thing with Dr. Mrs. the Monarch.
Yeah.
Where, like, it would just, there were just every couple of episodes there would be a scene where they both appeared in the scene at once, and it's very clear that they were obviously fucking in that janitor closet. But also no one is ever going to acknowledge it.
Yeah. But no, we do get Red Death's fucking speech.
Yeah.
Red Death speech is like one of the best scenes in the entire show. Genuinely.
I've watched this clip like once a month in the 5 years since this episode aired.
So one of the funniest. Oh, go ahead, Dotes.
I was just gonna quote him. You keep going.
Oh, one of the funniest things is, so I have seen that scene out of context, right?
Mhm.
Like, I just watched it because I think it's cool, and I love
Yeah.
Clancy Brown. I think Clancy Brown should voice Megatron at some point. What do you want from me?
Oh, Sarah. This scene is why Megatron is my default voice in More Than Meets the Eye.
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
Clancy Brown is my Megatron voice when I read More Than Meets the Eye.
No, I totally get it now, like 100%. But the thing is, like, I watched this scene out of context. Like, I just watched it. I was like, oh wow, he must really, like, they must have some fucking history. No, this dude was just rude to him.
Yeah,
It's
That's
so
the best
good.
part.
the fucking walk up where Red Death just crumples his actual arch and just fucking socks Blind Rage.
It's so good.
Oh, I love it.
I do love it as, like, him being the sort of antithesis to the Monarch approach to arching, which is, like, he's so into the job that everyone he arches is people that are just, this is the guy who made the mistake of pissing me off today. Because it's like, you know, you don't have to form a relationship or whatever. You don't have to have a whole thing. It's like, this is the man who I am going to make go to hell before he dies.
That's right.
I love it. It's good for him. He deserves it.
It's and Blind Rage deserved it.
Blind Rage is a huge piece of shit. Yeah, he deserved it 100%. Yeah, it just owns. It's such a good scene. It's such, like, great. It's like, oh, all right, Clancy Brown. He's the fucking Kurgan from Highlander. Yeah, he's the goat.
He's like this. He's Lex Luthoring all over the place.
Yeah, he's just being the most Lex Luthor he's ever been since he was Lex Luthor.
Clancy Brown is one of the people who, like, I would give up the few years of remaining youth left in my blood plasma to extend his acting career viability for just, like, another couple of roles.
He so seamlessly shifts from Lex Luthor to that grit.
Yeah, he's so good.
Just that rough fury in his voice. It's just, it's so good.
There's a reason everybody's always talking about why we keep talking about Red Death. Because he's the best fucking character that they introduce in these seasons.
And, you know, it's like, I know he has, like, a screen acting career from before he basically retired into cartoons. But also, I feel like he's so much more iconic as a voice actor.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I would kill to just have him be in, like, I know he's getting older, but, like, that's why I'm like, I would give the last remaining droplets of my youth that are still in my blood plasma if I could get, like, just another year of him doing weird new roles.
Can we please get Clancy Brown in a Fallout game?
Oh, now you're talking. If you can get Clancy Brown and Ron Perlman in the same fucking game,
They got Microsoft money now. Just once, we got to get Ron Perlman back for the speech.
You know what they should do? They should get those two and the guy who voices Joshua Graham to play the boss and the two lieutenants in a gang, and they're the plot line is all three of them are trying to Starscream each other.
See, in my head, it would be that each of them play the different faction leaders,
That
right?
would also be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You
But I
get
want the
three of them,
cartooniness
like
of it.
you play each different, like the leader of the various factions that you get in every Fallout game. Yeah,
I want Clancy Brown as a companion.
yeah.
He's doing the Red Death voice.
Mm-hmm.
He is voicing a Deathclaw.
Yeah.
Like it has like an enclave text-to-speech caller around its
Oh,
throat,
no.
and it just
No.
sounds like Red Death.
No, they just bring back the Midwest Death Claws.
Oh,
He's
they
just
just those
talking one.
talk. That's
Yeah.
right. Oh God.
I also want to real quick talk about Sheila's arch, Teresa Today,
Oh my God.
because she's the merging of A and B plots of
That's right. It's
Rusty-
so good.
Rusty knowing that she is a Black Widow
Mm-hmm.
that like kills people she sleeps with, and he's still like, fuck it, I don't care, I need to get laid.
And if she kills me, then I'll be free.
He's got that whole speech about like he's a man, he deserves to be touched and loved and not ridiculed like the helpless, pathetic individual he clearly is.
Yeah, and then Hank just goes, he's got a point.
He's got a point.
It's so great that even Rusty, like, please, known Black Widow, please Black Widow me. It is literally all I want in this world. She's like, I don't do that. I'm sorry.
The point where he's so hopped up on anti-venoms that he passes out, and she sees the sniper done, and she's like, I didn't do that.
I'm sorry. Rusty Adventure just sending her text that just says, white girl save me. Please, white girl. White girl save me.
Which follows up brilliantly in the next episode, where it's revealed that he's been stalking her.
Yeah, he's like making alts on Facebook
Yeah.
or whatever.
And then even like the stranger that's trying to get his OSI girl back
Mm-hmm.
is like, yeah, that's way worse. I just gave everyone a snow day. You've been cyber stalking her.
I feel like, because like we do need to like get to the movie at some
We
point.
do, yes.
Because we've been running for nearly 3 hours. I think this would be a good point to really quickly sum up episodes 9 and 10 as leading to the movie, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things happening in these 2 episodes.
The most important thing out of these next 2 episodes is that Dean sucks.
Dean sucks.
There's
He
been
did my boy super dirty, and by my boy I mean fucking Hank, who I love and would die for.
there's been a plot line about how, like, you know, Hank works odd jobs. He ain't going to college. He ain't that kind of American boy. But Dean actually goes to the same college as Hank's new girlfriend.
Sabrina,
They
yeah.
have some interactions. Yeah, that's Sabrina. And they have some interactions. And basically during the course of Hank getting, like, you know, kind of weirdly super texty
Yeah,
in the middle
clingy,
of a snowstorm and having, like, an
impulsive.
incident where he concusses his head open and gets carried around by Scare Bear, who, like, takes him to a convenience store to buy some chips, among other things.
The funniest, most shocking commercial break ever is Hank diving with his snow football into the lamppost and then just silence, cut to commercial.
It's so
And-
bad.
And it resolves in Scare Bear, who, again, identity of Scare Bear or what their deal is, literally never revealed, never will be. It's one of the great mysteries of the show, and I adore it. Carries Hank directly to his brother's dorm room, where the bleeding out of his head Hank discovers that Sabrina and Dean been fucking.
Yeah,
And then he passes out.
Yeah, and then Serena points out Scare Bear, and Hank goes, "Oh, good, you see him too."
A wonderful testament to Hank's self-awareness of his addled brain. That, not just from the injury, but also like this bear man might just exist in my mind.
I really quick just want to acknowledge Pischetti, and then we can move on.
I love the Pischetti scheme. It's so good.
It's like one of the highlights of the season.
And And then the most dangerous game, which is just lawn darts.
Yeah, it just pulls the lawn dart, toss it up, and run out of the way.
It's really great that once again we get another reference to Return of the House of the Mummies Part 2, where Grover Cleveland's time machine just shows up.
Yeah, and then
no fucking reason with Rusty missing a finger and calling the monarch by his name, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm choosing to believe, because this is 2018, I'm choosing to believe that him missing a finger in the Grover Cleveland time machine is like a really obtuse BioShock Infinite reference.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Malcolm, why are you 4 million years in the past? And they just go, what?
What? And then they're like, oh, we gotta go. It's really good.
But we gotta wrap up the series forever with the Saphirax Protocol.
Oh, yeah.
And then also the movie after.
Oh, yeah, the movie, we have to wait 5 years before we can talk about the movie.
That's right.
Look forward to that episode. We're not
No,
talking
we
about
can't do a 4th episode. I'll die.
I love
See you in 5 years.
I love Coma Town. I love that Hank and Action Man are constantly fighting over which movie they're in.
I like that it turns out that Coma Town is, as we discover in the movie, Coma Town is just where you go for your fucking 70s sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's so good.
Because it's The Empire Strikes Back, it's Barbarella, and eventually it's fucking Zardoz.
Orpheus shows up wearing the Zardoz insane one-piece harness thong or whatever he's got going on, and then Jefferson Twilight is the huge stone head.
What I'm gathering is that Coma Town is what your personal favorite 70s movie is.
Yes.
Won't you take me
sci-fi
to
movie.
Coma Town?
Because
it has to be sci-fi.
It has to be sci-fi because Barbarella, The Empire Strikes Back, and Zardoz are all ostensibly 70s sci-fi movies.
So
I'm gonna break the mold, and I'm gonna force mine to be Xanadu.
Xanadu is kind of a sci-fi movie.
it works.
Can I go for an extremely abstruse definition of sci-fi? And because it's Stephen King, say that my Coma Town is in fact The Shining.
Wait.
I think that would work.
Wait. I'm going back. I'm taking my decision back. Ralph Bakshi's Wizards.
Okay, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
I think sadly mine would just be Star Wars because I haven't really seen a lot of 70s sci-fi movies yet.
That's fair.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good 70s movies I've seen, but I haven't seen a lot of 70s sci-fi movies, honestly. That's why I'm like, The Shining, I guess.
Sarah, what's yours?
Probably Xanadu.
Okay.
Xanadu.
I love this episode. Feels like the peak for a lot of characters, especially Brock. He finally gets to just go apeshit again.
Mm-hmm.
It's been so long. He's been so goofy these past 2 seasons. He has that great bit with Think Tank earlier on where he's like where Think Tank is like, I have a high-powered cannon pointed at your chest, and Brock goes, I can dodge it.
That's the best scene ever.
I feel like Brock is the character who gets most hit with the thing that Public and Hammer wrote about in that book, where it's like, yeah, our sense of humor and the way we write changed as we got older, and we got a little more tender and vulnerable and a little less super cynical about things. Brock is the one who gets hit by the dad hammer so hard of just turning into a complete dork.
And
it's really good.
And it pays off here because he gets to embrace a little bit of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Attention. Hello, idiots.
Yeah, he's got that great speech where he talks about how he's going to kill all of them. He's got the bit where he's in the middle of the fight and he goes, I gotta pee. Anyone gotta pee?
Yeah.
Anyone take a whiz break? How about you, guy with a beat on me who needs to reload?
It's so good. We have one of my favorite things possibly ever is the whole ceremony with with the Monarch and 21 is it's fine. It's the resolution part that kicks so much ass. Where the Monarch is like, I'm so tired of you assholes jerking me around. You wanna fucking promote my sidekick, my best friend, to fucking be a villain himself. You're gonna break me up. I feel like all you guys do are jerk me around. You're all assholes, and I don't want to do it. And then fucking Gary is like, yeah, I just want to be a henchman. And then they just straight up called each other best friends.
Yeah.
It's like, yes.
Yeah.
This is the character arc I've cared about the most.
They've spent season 7 really kind of is focused a lot on Malcolm and Gary becoming level 10s, right? Like the premise for like the overarching plot is them like they do the big villain program, which we barely talked about that, which with St. Cloud, where just real quick, where St. Cloud gets his ass kicked by old people.
That's correct.
And also, I think there's a conspiracy to give him an overpowered lightning gun that ends up not amounting to anything because he just sort of fucking uselessly wastes it.
Yeah, but no, they've been building up to becoming like real, actual friends who joke about dumb movie shit and like go back and forth and talk about random things, and then finally, just this peak of like he's like, you're taking away my wife, you're taking away my best friend. I can't do this anymore. He says. I'm too old to start over.
Right.
And it's like, and that was the test.
And you
passed. Test of loyalty.
And it's like, oh, great. And it's like, oh, they get to affirm that they are true besties.
Who are the real Venture brothers, if not Malcolm and Gary?
It's so true.
Ignoring the fact that Malcolm was an adult man when he kidnapped Gary, who at the time was like 8 years old.
He was like 12 or something.
Yeah, he was in junior high because they were at the junior high DC trip.
Okay, right. So he was between 10 and 12 years old.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But now they're just best friends and hench for life.
Hench for life.
Like it's such a good mindfuck because just like Malcolm's development into like this role, and he's like, this whole time he's only wanted to be the rock star, right? Mm-hmm. And all this paperwork and planning and work the program and, put in the hours. He doesn't want to do it, but he's been doing it. He's been trying his best. And even now, at the point where it's supposed to be his day, they're trying to take this shit away from him. Like, it's just brilliant writing.
It's so good. And then, like, so we can actually get to the movie, and because it's really funny to me, like the show ends on two things. Is one, the show ends technically, the post-credit stinger is Dean waking up and finding out that Hank is just bailed, which is really funny. But also the show ends on Watch and Ward telling the Monarch that he's related to Rusty by blood. And then the show went on hiatus for 5 years. And
then we had to wait 5 fucking years for an answer.
Worse yet, we got told like almost immediately, hey, there's going to be season 8. And we got really excited for it. And then like 6 months later, they're like, yeah, we got canceled. There's no Venture Brothers ever.
Venture Brothers is dead.
And then they said, hey, we're going to make a movie to try and wrap things up. And then that took like another 3 years.
And like, this makes sense because it is a network change, but like, I have like the episode list on Wikipedia up, right? And it doesn't have viewership numbers for a lot of the old seasons, but for what is available, season 7's viewership numbers are lower than every other recorded season by like 50+%.
Well, yeah, because they switched over to fucking HBO Max, a service that sucks and nobody uses.
Yeah, and they just took that presumably as justification to go like, well, there was 1.2 million US viewers for Gargantua 2. There was 1.5 million US viewers for Mama's Boys, right? That's like the one that's highest up on the recorded ones. And most of the season 7 episodes were around 500 to 600,000.
Yeah. Because of course it was just used as a justification to cancel the show by somebody who is bitter and sucks, allegedly. Because they moved it to fucking HBO Max. I don't have HBO Max. And if they did move it to HBO Max, you know what most people did? They pirated that thing.
Pirated, yeah, for sure.
That's right. And it makes things that much worse that they release a movie in July of 2023 in the middle of one of the largest Hollywood strikes ongoing, and they were literally union guidelines prohibited from doing basically any promotion for the movie.
That's great.
Let's talk about the movie.
Let's talk about the movie.
I
Really
cried.
fucking good.
I cried.
Confirming its presence in the Team Fortress 2 timeline is just named like a Team Fortress 2 comic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We forgot to mention they literally had an episode in one of those seasons where Hatred and Rusty are playing together.
They just know. They're like, yeah, we know what we're doing. We know exactly what you guys are drawing comparisons to. It's fine.
Yeah, no, Oates, I also cried during the opening credits, hearing that theme for the first time in like over a decade.
The first time and the last time.
It's good.
Sorry.
It's good. They wrap up the other remaining plots. They wrap up the one big question: who is the boy's mom?
Right.
I really wish we could get a season 8 because I want to see more of all these new characters.
Yeah. I really want like Bobby and what's her name?
Debbie.
Yeah.
By the way, her name is Debbie because they wanted Dr. Girlfriend to say that name as much as possible. Debbie.
Yeah, that's true. I understand why. I mean,
Look, if it's your last call, you have to have as much fun with the voice as possible.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Her having a lesbian crush on Sheila and it manifesting in a conspiracy board was really good.
I love that.
You just make a conspiracy board.
You never start out wanting to make the conspiracy board. You start with a list and it just kind of spirals out of control from there. You don't want the crazy board.
Debbie's like whole thing, like her acting is so good. She makes all those like noises and those like exasperated like sounds, and they're just perfect.
See, the thing is, Debbie is exactly the kind of, because she's also kind of got like the stalker gene, right? And like Hank, God love him, was definitely being a little smothery with Serena. And it's like, oh, all of her weirdness just got moved on to Hank. Like, she's not real. I mean, she is the boy's mom in that she's the egg donor, right?
Yeah.
So she's genetically their mom. And so much of her fucking weirdness is just, Hank just got it. He got her nose and he got her blonde hair and her blue eyes and the fact that he kind of likes to stalk whoever he's romantically interested in, okay?
I forget if I said this in the episode or if it was after, but no, it was in like a Discord chat. I just genuinely choose to believe it's a thing where, yeah, Doc's artificial womb thing wasn't exactly the most 100% functioning, and it is literally like which one, like the Rusty Debbie split is like 75-25 for the two boys. Where like, Dean is 75% Rusty and Hank is 75% Debbie.
It's like when you watch Muppet Christmas Carol and all of the Cratchit's kids are divided by gender to be pigs or frogs.
Yeah, all the boys are frogs and all the girls are pigs.
Yeah. It's like we have two kids, one of them is all Rusty, one of them is all Debbie.
This is going on my cork board for trans Hank.
That's right. That's so true.
I don't think
it would be the funniest season 1 foreshadowing of all time. Of like, no, Hank is a girl.
Hank is a girl. We come back.
He looks like mom. That's why. That's how this works in this world.
I don't think Hank will eventually become trans. I think he will just stop caring about pronouns entirely.
That's right.
I'm standing by my thing of he does not change his name or change his pronouns, but he does like go the whole hormone replacement affirmative surgery angle. That one just gets the most rocking titties in the world.
Mm-hmm. I love the idea of Hank just going like, "Oh man, she's got blue hair and pronouns too." Well, he's still totally blonde.
Yeah,
I love the idea of Hank showing up to the family, to like the big family reunion or whatever, and just fucking Hunter Gathers is there, and he just does the Benedict Cumberbatch salute, like, "Mother of God, they're beautiful."
just him doing a fucking Hanna-Barbera double take.
We actually get to see Gather's eyes because they pop right out of his fucking shade.
Yeah.
Son, you're doing your country proud. Do you want to join the OSI?
Oh, now I can join the OSI?
We didn't talk about how Dermot is now in the OSI, though.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah, but he's like a weird, like, they have him in, like, a bootleg uniform, and he's not actually allowed to carry a gun.
And his post is just camping out in the Venture compound in the movie.
He's just an OSI security guard. He's like in the OSI, but no, not really.
I don't think it's his job. I think it's something that he's just doing, and the OSI doesn't stop him, of him, like, harvesting all of the Venture tech and just keeping it in his trailer and selling it back to Ben.
He found a piece of OSI paraphernalia in, like, the bombed out ruins of the Sphinx base. He's like, I knew it!
Yeah.
This is the lab they birthed me in.
I love Debbie as a character so much, in part because, like, there's something remarkably funny about the Monarch dating that in college, and it being so important to him that that apparently in his mind Rusty also dated her, which shows you know that possessiveness clearly runs in the family.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But like both Rusty is kind of disgusted by it, and Debbie herself is just like, oh god, ew, no.
Yeah.
No, that's the funniest bit, where it's like he got really hung up on this. He's like, it's not like even in the top 100 reasons I hate Venture, and yet when he gets him alone in the elevator, it's literally the first thing out of his mouth. Why'd you fuck Debbie?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, neither of them fucked her because she's the most useless lesbian in the entire show.
And like, of course, he thinks that he sees the Venture boys. That's clearly Debbie's kids.
Yeah.
Right, like, he's got a brain. He can look at it and go like, oh yeah, that's Debbie St. John's kid.
And it's so funny to see that replicated back with the two Venture boys and brother fucking someone else's girlfriend.
Yeah.
It's so true. It just runs in the family, I guess. They all got it from Jonas.
Much like the Ushiromiya family and their cyclical traumas, it is all in fact Kinzo's fault.
That's right.
Somehow it shakes out that this is all Jonas's fault. That's
right. Oh god, what else? There's so much in this fucking movie.
There's this really interesting thing that happens in this movie, especially that kind of noticed, like, after rewatching it, is that Rusty, kind of going back to what I said about how Rusty was screwed up because he didn't have a sibling. He's really into the idea of having Malcolm as a brother.
Yeah.
Like because there's the bit in the elevator where they're like going down and they're like, did you hear about this thing on how he might be related? And they're like, yeah, whatever, of course. And then he goes, then again, my dad did kind of sleep around a lot, and he did know your mom, so Yeah. And then later on, when they're both like, they're doing the kidney, the blood transfusion, and they're like, Rusty's like, yeah, we should have seen this coming. This is obviously how it's supposed to end up. Like, he's kind of like into the idea of having a brother villain.
Yeah, I guess because like he's like, oh well, see, this means that I can't be the brother villain the way that Killinger said.
Yeah,
because clearly Malcolm. He's brother villain.
He's even got that line in the thing where they're talking about how like they need to lower the building slowly, and Malcolm is like what so we don't kill your rent-a-cop, and he's like, no, so we don't wipe out half the city. And Monarch kind of scoffs at it, and he's like, yep, that's why I'm the good guy and you're the bad guy.
It's so funny. I just love that so much, where it's like, I know I keep harping on this, but it's like, if they just change roles, they'd both be so much more successful and happy, but it's not the life they want to lead.
That's right.
Yeah. No, I don't think they'd be happier if their roles were swapped. I think they'd be better at it, but they wouldn't be happier. They're happy exactly where they are.
I think the one thing I will say is that this movie, and kind of like other stuff over the course of this whole show that we've now talked about for way too many goddamn hours, is that really, I just want more episodes where Rusty and the Monarch are forced to work together.
Yeah, it's
Because
fun
it's
dynamic.
really funny to watch them do it.
We never get to see them like actually just like interact one-on-one for extended periods.
Mm-hmm.
I do think you're right, because I think that thinking about the relationship, the thing that is missing is the Lupin and Zenigata angle. Right?
Yeah.
Where it's cat and mouse, but no, you do have to put them in a position where they have to begrudgingly accept that the cat and mouse can only happen if they both get rid of the things that prevent the cat and mouse from happening.
Right. And like that's what this movie is good for, because we get a lot of like those two like being forced to work together and arguing about it the whole time. But like it's the thing is that this movie just might make me like, I want season 8. I want more of it.
This wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough. The problem is that you watch the Venture Brothers, you're like, that was really good. Right? You watch all of it. You watch all of the Venture Brothers over the course of several weeks with your insane friends.
You're welcome.
And I know. I watch it and you go like, that was pretty good. Right? And then you walk away from it. You're like, okay. You just walk away from it. And then 3 weeks later, you're still thinking about it.
It's 3 weeks, Sarah. 5 years.
I know.
Yes, Sarah.
That's the thing. Is that like, you're like, okay, I watched this good cartoon. I really liked it. I shall move on with my life now. No, you won't, you fucking idiot. You don't get to move on.
Sarah, I had the Saphrax protocol memorized because I just kept going back to clips of it.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that that's going to be me now. I'm just going to be that person where, like, once a year, I'm like, well, I guess I'm rewatching the Venture Brothers now. Because, like,
it's the blessing of my bad memory that I'm like, I barely remember a lot of the details from the stuff that we watched because, you know what? That was over a month ago now. Mm-hmm. And that's information that Saturn's brain just doesn't really want to hang on to like that. Oh well, it just means I have an excuse to rewatch all of the Venture Brothers again.
See you in a year.
My favorite part is that there are so many like little details in every single fucking episode. A lot of which are just like really clever callbacks to or foreshadowing for like other episodes that you're gonna do like the Leonardo DiCaprio like snapping and pointing thing. Yeah,
like,
you're
gonna see 15 minutes. You're going to see a costume in a background, and you're like, I know that guy. He's going to be in the next season.
Right, exactly. Like, that's the thing that I ultimately came away from all of this, is that, like, I was like, as I was watching this show, I was like, this show's really good, but I don't think it's going to make me insane. Oops.
Oh.
Oops.
You have no idea.
Whoops. No. Like, something about it has such, like, a magnetic quality. Like, there's so much good shit in here. There's so many interesting characters. There's so much, like, fucking weird storytelling going on and the kind of banal life that like heroes and villains have together where it's all just like a job.
Yeah,
but somebody has to be the adult in the room.
I know we've talked a little bit about how like the bit with the conversation with Ben and Hank at the end doesn't feel earned, right? Because it is a weird kind of thing where like they're talking about how Jonas has this idea of family mattering, right? Which is very clearly untrue.
Yeah, totally.
Like 100%. So when I watch it, I think of it as it's not Ben saying what Jonas used to say. It's Ben saying what he thinks to Hank, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Like he's not saying Jonas actually cared about his family. He clearly didn't. The whole point is that Rusty does.
Yeah.
Right? That's the whole point. But the actual final scene of where it's just everyone sitting in Ben's living room, and they all have beers and they're just making small talk. And and Gary is there and he's talking to Hatred and he's talking to Jefferson and Orpheus. And
Dr. Mrs. the Monarch is there, invisible, pulling down.
And then it ends with Sheila pulling down Rusty's pants, Monarch declaring that he is now fueled by the blood of the baboon.
Yeah.
That his
we keep talking about it. Yeah. The Monarch's a clone. He's also a clone.
He had 2% of his DNA replaced with baboon DNA in order to combat the alopecia that clones get, because that's the kind of guy that Jonas is.
Yeah,
he was like, no, this cloning technology isn't perfect because it gives my son's male pattern baldness. Let's get some monkey junk in there.
Yeah, I told Jonas don't put that monkey junk in there, but did he listen? Nope. I do love. I want to say just real quick about Ben, because again, like his character is so strong. Like he does that. He has that line where he's talking to Dermot and he's describing some kind of technological machine, and he's like, "It's like a blue car battery with like a funnel on the end."
Yeah. It's just good voice acting.
Oh yeah,
J.K. Simmons kicks ass.
Again,
yeah. Go ahead, Oates.
I just think like because of that scene Ben has at the end with Dean, it's very clearly like this is what Ben thinks about family, right?
Yeah,
This is how Ben feels about Jonas. I'd still insist he's probably like a Revolver Ocelot type character rather than a clone. I think it's so much funnier that he's just like, no, that kind of thing wasn't allowed. Gentlemen got away with it, but I'm not.
I would love the revelation that warts and all Ben is Revolver Ocelot to Jonas in the sense that, yeah, of course they were madly in love, but also they probably fought a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there was definitely a shirtless rooftop fight between the two of them before Ben got old.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oates, you love the most recent Warframe update.
Yeah.
But no,
I think I know on an earlier episode I complained a bit about this moment because like I do think in the tone of it does end up feeling very weirdly forced for a show that like I think sometimes can be a little forced, but often often wears it a bit better. And I think it's literally just as much as I love J.K. Simmons and his performance for Ben, it should have been literally anyone else.
Yeah. It should have been anyone. It could have been Rusty actually saying something meaningful to Hank. Probably for the first time ever.
Hinging the entirety of the show's like concluding argument for having like an emotional through line on a guy who this is his second voiced appearance in the show,
and he also has not met Hank yet.
Yeah, and the first one was also a special.
Yeah.
And like it would be feasible that maybe a normal audience member might not have actually saw that like at the time that was like if you're like catching up with DVD releases or something, you might have just missed it, whatever. I think it could have been like I would have bought that if it was like you could have literally had the Monarch do that spiel, and I would have bought it more, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, or you could have had one of
giving a different, not Jonas's watch to Hank, because like Hank's whole thing over the course of the entire series is wanting some degree of like validation, not from Rusty, because he's like, oh, my dad is like, human, and I know that. He wants validation from Brock. It should have been Brock being like here you go, here's your validation.
Yeah.
Or if it's not going to be Brock, because Brock is Brock, the person it could have been who Hank would value validation from, who would know a bunch of dumb shit about watches and would find a way to make it all make sense emotionally, is it could have been fucking 21.
It could have been Gary, It could have been his buddy Gary.
Gary would absolutely give this dork-ass speech about fucking watches and go, anyway, you gotta choose your family or whatever, because ultimately, like, we're all you got, and you can go try and find other people, and that's cool, but also, like, maybe, have like keep an open mind, because like I've been keeping an open mind since I was 12 years old, and I got abducted by some morons in butterfly costumes, and honestly it's worked out pretty well for me.
I think it's a weird scene that doesn't quite fit, but I think what does fit is the scene right after, where it's everyone just hanging out and they're chatting, and it's what the show's value, what Doc and Jackson value more than anything is what friendship represents, and what family is a bunch of guys you can't stand and love at the same time, who share your vibes with dumb pop culture references and weird trivia about actors and props and dumb stuff that you grew up with together. And it's all them just sitting around talking and having some beers. And that's what the actual like emotional center of it is for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, like, like the the really strong emotional through line isn't the watch. It's the moment where Dean's just like, can I finally like get some answers about Mom? And Rusty's response is, the person who gave birth to you loves you. I promise they do.
And we get the brick joke stinger at the end that's in the true show's fashion, where you just see 1980s Rusty with a big fucking PT or a Death Stranding artificial womb strapped to his chest and a little fetal Hank and Dean in there.
And they're doing the Team Venture fingers. It's built into their DNA.
Right. And yeah.
Team Venture. And it also worth mentioning that it ends with Monarch declaring his vengeance on Dr. Venture. And you know what? We are... The Ventec tower landed right back in the big hole that the compound left.
Right.
We are back where we started. But not really. Everyone is different, but we are back where we started.
I do think it's worth noting, because we didn't really get into them. There's a really important and cool B-plot where Hank is in Coma Town Purgatory Land and has this big, like, personal moment of catharsis where he abandons these alternate personalities he's built for himself so he can live a life as Hank and not have to, like, be constrained by these artifices he's made to deal with the chaos of his life. But also in true Venture Bros fashion, we get a C-plot where Dean is on a road trip with Orpheus and the Order of the Triad to find Hank, and he thinks he got infected by a Blackula bite, and then it turns out that he just got poked by Jefferson Twilight's necklace. And Jefferson Twilight's, you're always trying to find some way to make it about you.
I love the scene, where Hank finally parts with his alter egos, and Orpheus has a great speech where, like, yes, but they will always be with you. They will always be a part of you, but you need to move on from them. And when Dean enters Coma Town, they just beat the shit out of him. Hank's like, I guess I had a little bit of resentment left over.
I love the idea, by the way, because, like, I'm just going to operate on the assumption that Action Man never comes back from that coma, right? From that stroke. That he gets to spend his purgatory Coma Town years hanging around with a bunch of other psychotic kids who he just really enjoys and who are reminding him of, like, one of his favorite kids in the whole world. Yeah. Because he's also a psycho. Yeah. But it's every different possible permutation of that kid being a different kind of psycho.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really a whole lot else to say about it. We are, here we go again. It's like I said in the first episode. The series feels the emotional response of it feels like Sam Sheepdog and Ralph the Wolf. Right. We are gonna beat the shit out of each other all day. The whistle blows. Hey, you want to grab a beer?
Right.
If not, I'll see you tomorrow, man.
Yeah.
I do still think it would be cool if we ever got Venture Brothers The Next Generation. You literally just start with the same formula again as your base point, but it's Dean as Rusty and Hank as Brock.
That's right.
Oh yeah,
maybe they have own weird clone kids of their own. Who knows?
I think that's been like the theory forever, is that the show Hank will grow up to be Rusty and Dean will grow up to be Brock. But
other way around, but yes.
Whatever way around, but like either way,
if they reverse that on everybody,
either way, they're both going to be okay.
Right.
They're both everyone at this point. Everyone is going to be doing better than all the fucked up Team Venture stuff was before. Right, yeah. All these characters are going to actually end up being okay, and I think that's the kind of thing that would not have happened if this show had ended after 2 or 3 seasons, right? Like, but because we've had all this time to grow with them, Doc and Jackson are like, well, no, we can't hurt them anymore.
Right.
They're going to be okay.
They've as writing sensibilities, they have grown up and matured and lost some of their youthful cynicism, right? It's kind of funny. You get older and you get less cynical in a way. Like once you hit a certain age, once you hit 30, you're significantly less cynical than you were in your 20s, because you're like, well, I'm still alive. I'm still making it. Yeah. How bad can it be? I'm still here. Right?
I still have all of these wonderful connections that hold me together with this web of people.
Right? You still have your dumb idiot friends who you make fucking jokes with at 2:00 in the morning, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, and you record a podcast about a show you all watched in some sort of fervor over the course of one month, completely at the drop of a hat.
What is the ultimate thesis of the Venture Brothers but 4 people talking about the Venture Brothers for 10 hours?
Yeah, until it's fucking midnight where half the cast is concerned, right? Like, you know, like we're all, you know, that's what the Venture Brothers is. It's like, it's a conversation. It's literally, for the most part, 2 guys talking to each other in various roles because they just like talking to each other so much, right? Like,
in true Venture Brothers Geek Out fashion, I had been planning to be like catch up on some of my drawing while you're doing the podcast. I just got so engrossed in the conversation, I didn't even bother turning on my tablet even once. It just didn't happen.
That's correct. I did my boredom where I've drawn on my skin, but that's about it. Like I do my fucking like ADHD. I got to do something with my hands.
Yeah.
But like that's what the Venture Brothers is. It's a conversation, and it's like. And that is in like every single meaning of the word. It's just a bunch of fucking weirdos talking to each other and making jokes.
And it's kind of the personal thing between Rusty and Malcolm, of that they just hate each other because they don't like each other.
That's right.
And that's what makes it so personal. Is they just don't like. I don't like that guy. Right. And Malcolm is totally okay with getting along with everyone else that Doc associates with.
Mm-hmm.
It would be the funniest possible outcome in the world if, in contravention of the successors to Rusty and Brock thing, the future Venture Brothers was literally the Hank and Dean rivalry.
Yeah, that's the other way it could go. Is Hank desperately convincing Dean to join the guild so that they can be cool rival brothers?
Yeah.
And Dean like, no, I don't want to join the guild. I hate this shit. And then through a convoluted series of mail scams, accidentally joins the guild.
Just gets tricked into joining the guild.
And he's like, wait, and he's like, man, I don't want to be a villain. Wait, I get paid how much? And you don't have to kill Hank, right? No, sweetie, you can leave him alive if you want to. Arching's whatever you want to bring into it. Oh, well, okay.
Well, twist my arm, why don't you?
I can afford hair plugs of this.
I like to believe that Dean barely scrapes by the male pattern baldness, and he just has a nice receded hairline that, you know, he keeps really short, but he manages to avoid the worst of it.
That's right.
And he gets that thing where his widow's peak is so deep, it looks almost like he started making himself a mohawk and then, like, thought better of it.
I also think that, yes, Dean will look good in Buddy Holly glasses.
That's true. He really would look good in Buddy Holly glasses.
Yeah. I think we got to wrap it up, though.
We got to wrap it up. It's midnight for 2 members of this podcast. It's 11 o'clock my time.
I had been nominally entertaining trying to do part-time work tomorrow. That might be a project work thing whenever the fuck I wake up, because
correct.
I had been thinking I was going to be going to bed about 2 hours earlier than I am going to end up doing. So you know.
All right, well, that'll do it for us. Thank you to Visitor for our background music. Thank you to Adult Swim and Cartoon Network for making this show possible. You know where you can find us. We're all over the place.
And also fuck you, Adult Swim, for stopping making the show possible. If you walk that back and make the show possible again, I will rescind that fuck you. You're welcome in advance.
The ball's in your court.
Fuck you, allegedly, Mike Alone.
Yeah.
And also fuck Jonas Venture. We've been holding it off this whole season, this whole series of episodes. Fuck Jonas Venture.
Truly history's greatest monster.
History's greatest monster.
I'm glad Rusty Emiya Kuritsugu'd him.
That's correct.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.